Chapter 4752. The ruins were silent, and everyone was waiting quietly. There were a total of 6 superior gods present. Apart from the 3 superior gods who had been digging at the beginning, the remaining 3 were Night God, Night Bumo, and Governor Chong Yuan. These superior gods formed a small circle and chatted with each other. To them, intermediate gods were clearly not qualified to talk to them. However, there were 3 superior gods. They more or less stared at Lin Ling and occasionally at Taoist Duobao. Clearly, they knew that although these people were not superior gods, they had the strength to kill them. Especially that young man called Lin Ling. His strength was the most terrifying. Unfortunately, Night Bumo and the other 2 superior gods did not know this. Moreover, the intermediate gods who had followed them did not know either. As they waited, everyone gradually relaxed and chatted louder and louder. As for some of the more introverted warriors, they sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. Is the teleportation array really here? Lin Ling and the others also sat down cross-legged and looked around. The surroundings were filled with ancient ruins and rocks. They looked quite old, but on the surface everything looked very ordinary. An ant. Suddenly, God Emperor Zhan Steel looked at his feet and saw a black ant crawling slowly. However, this ant was very big. It was about the size of a finger and its antennae moved slightly. It was quite cute. Lin Ling and the others stared at the ant curiously. God Emperor Zhan Steel checked for a while and then grabbed the ant. He looked at it from head to toe and saw that this ant was very ordinary. Other than its large size, there was nothing special about it. God Emperor Zhan Steel let it go. Be careful. Although it looked ordinary, Lin Ling still cautioned him. Steel Slayer God Monarch immediately placed the ant down gently. The ant did not bother about Steel Slayer God Monarch and slowly left. However, on the other side, a god discovered the strange ant. After seeing that it was normal, he immediately killed it with a finger. This caused a crisp sound to ring out. The moment this sound rang out, a strange atmosphere suddenly appeared in the air. Not good, immediately destroy that ant. A god anxiously shouted. This is a poisonous ant. Can even devour gods. As long as you are targeted by it, unless you die, you will never rest. Another god anxiously shouted. At this moment, all the deities were shocked. Pa. The air began to explode, and a large number of ants began to crawl out of the ruins. Meanwhile, a god who was closer to a stone pillar was bitten by an ant. He couldn't move at all and could only allow the ant to crawl all over his body. No. Save me. Save me. Everyone could clearly see that ants were crawling all over that person's face, leaving only his eyes. Eventually, even his eyes were submerged. The current scene was so terrifying that it made one's scalp go numb. Everyone present was a god who had cultivated for countless years. They had thought of dying in battle or dying of old age, but they had never thought of dying in such a way. What do we do now? Some of the gods panicked and ran back the way they had come. There were also gods who unleashed powerful attacks to deal with the poison diagram ants. However, these ants were extremely powerful, and actually didn't fear any attacks from the gods. Oh my god, what the hell is this? After his attack failed, the god became even more flustered. Lord Lin Ling, what should we do? Saint Yi and the others also looked anxious. More and more ants appeared in the surroundings, covering the mountains and plains in a black mass. Lin Ling looked around and discovered that the cute things from before had now become fierce and ferocious. Obviously, as long as one ant died, all the poison diagram ants would be enraged. The poison diagram ants didn't fear the gods, which was the same as Pengu's attack. Lord Lin Ling, let's leave this place immediately. I don't think this is the way to the 8th level. Whitewater Pure Maiden also said. Even though she was a god, she was still a woman and was most afraid of these ants. Leave. Lin Ling looked around and discovered that the poison diagram ants had already surrounded them, but there were still several gaps. Most importantly, these poison diagram ants weren't fast. This meant that they could break out of the encirclement. However, Lin Ling also looked at the key in his hand and discovered that it was beginning to emit light. Hold on, the way to the 8th level is about to open. Lin Ling said decisively. As soon as he said that, the holders of the keys also roared loudly. They had also discovered this strange change. This meant that they had to enter the teleportation place and escape before they were surrounded. However, if the teleportation place appeared too late, they would be crushed to pieces. At this moment, even the higher-level gods broke out in cold sweat. Get out of here! They kept retreating and even pushed out some weak gods. After those gods were pushed out, they were immediately entangled by the poison diagram ants. Then, their bodies became motionless and were gradually devoured. Even their bones were bitten to pieces. It was terrifying. Fortunately, at the center of the ruins, a light spot began to appear and slowly took shape. It actually turned into a light door, but it wasn't fast. It needed some time to completely take shape. Moreover, there wasn't just one light spot but more than a dozen. This meant that there were more than a dozen doors. It's appeared. The gods were overjoyed. This way they had a way out. But it's too slow. However, there were also people who were very worried. I've discovered that with the divine embryo's innate ability, it can intimidate the ants. Suddenly, an old man roared. He activated the divine embryo's innate ability and formed a light. The surrounding ants didn't move forward. Instead, their eyes emitted black light as they stared at that god. It's effective. No, they're devouring the light of the divine embryo's innate ability and using it to grow. Yeah, if the light of the divine embryo's innate ability is completely devoured, they'll pounce again. Many people stared at that old man and discovered something. Ignore it. It's better than being eaten. However, even if they knew, they couldn't care less. They all erupted with the light of the divine embryo's innate ability. Layers of light erupted, forming a light screen that blocked all the ants. Meanwhile, the ants raised their heads to look at the light and continued to devour it. As time passed, their bodies quietly changed, as if their innate abilities were also increasing. Some of the ants' backs burst open and quietly grew wings. They're transforming, damn it. This scene caused many people to secretly curse when they saw it. However, just like their initial thoughts, even if they knew, they had to stubbornly hold on. Similarly, Lin Ling and the others were also activating their innate abilities to block the ants. Moreover, they anxiously stared at the numerous light doors, hoping that they would quickly take shape. Chapter 47:53. Save me! Save me! The god roared as he stretched out his hand, hoping that someone would pull him up. Unfortunately, everyone was in danger, and no one cared about him. Success! Moments later, the first door was formed. The gods closer to it immediately flew in, and with a gloating smile, they disappeared into the door of light. Once these gods left, the pressure on the remaining people became even greater. This was because even more poison diagram ants were coming to devour their innate light. However, at this time the second door of light was also formed. Luck is finally on our side. The gods who were closer to the second door of light pounced toward it. Next, the third, the fourth, and without a doubt the gods who entered last were under the most pressure. There were even a few people who were too slow to enter and died in the process. My lord, more and more people are leaving. What should we do next? Saint Guy shouted anxiously as the deafening cries of the ants filled the surroundings. You guys go in immediately, I'll hold them off. Lin Ling shouted. He had more innate talents and could last longer. My lord, no, we can't leave you behind. Bai Shui and Su Nu said immediately. Go quickly, the more time you waste, the more dangerous it will be for me. Lin Ling didn't have time to explain. With that, Saint Guy and the others gritted their teeth and flew toward the door of light. Hold them off. Along the way, a god attacked Saint Guy and the others, trying to stop the ants. Donghuang Bell. However, Saint Guy wasn't weak. He activated the Donghuang Bell and suppressed the god. Bang! The god was crushed to the ground, heavily injured. Of course, the most terrifying thing was that he was drowned by the ants. Junior, how dare you harm me? I won't let you off. That god also swore a blood oath before he died. Unfortunately, Saint Guy and the others weren't inexperienced people. They had already seen countless storms in their lives, so they didn't fear this god's blood oath at all. Serves you right. Saint Guy snorted and entered the door of light. Lin Ling, quick. Nanwufeng, you did the same. Lin Ling. The giant ghost gritted its teeth and stood outside the light gate, waiting for Lin Ling to join them. At this time, Lin Ling had also retreated, but it was already the end. There were poison ants all around, and many of them were very fast. They could fly, and all of a sudden they blocked Lin Ling's path. Bloom! Lin Ling let out a low roar, and the 7 innate talents were released at the same time. The effect was not bad, and all the ants stopped in their tracks. Lin Ling, on the other hand, chose another light door that was closer and immediately shot into it. Lord Lin Ling has gone in. Let's go. When they saw this, Zhu Gui and the others hurriedly entered the door of light as well. Even though everyone entered a different door of light, at the very least, they were free from the poison diagram ants. As for the gods left behind in the ruins, it was obvious that they couldn't hold on any longer and were all devoured. As for the gods who had escaped from the ruins, regret was written all over their faces. We took the wrong path. We shouldn't have escaped. We should have stayed in the ruins. Now we can only wait for those ants to leave and try our luck. What's the use? I reckon that after the ants leave, the light gates will disappear. We came for nothing. The gods sighed and said. But at this time the poison diagram ants surrounded them, causing them to flee. It was obviously impossible to fight the poison diagram ants head-on. Moreover, the terrifying thing was that after the poison diagram ants lost their target, they actually gathered together and tore through the void, chasing toward the 8th level of the 8 gods' celestial palace. This was the terror of the poison diagram ants. They would not rest until they were dead. It was useless even if they fled to the ends of the world. Moreover, there were rumors that in the ancient era, a god was targeted by the poison diagram ants, and they chased after him from that era. The poison diagram ants were simply god-slaying weapons. At this moment, a large number of figures smashed down like fireballs bombarding the earth. Bang bang bang. One of them was Lin Ling. He smashed into the forest, and the divine essence in his body was in turmoil. Then, he hurriedly sat down cross-legged. Previously, he had displayed his 7 innate talents, and they were continuously devoured by the poison diagram ants. This caused some damage to his foundation. Therefore now he needed a certain amount of time to recover. One had to know that if the talent light devoured by the poison diagram ants did not recover, the divine fetus talent would be damaged. Time passed quietly. Lin Ling's divine fetus finally recovered, but it still had not recovered to its peak state. Little friend, I have the illusory light of glorious dawn here. It can recover the damage of talent. Take it and use it. At this time an old man slowly walked over. He wore a loose robe and his long hair was white. He looked like an immortal. Lin Ling frowned and slowly opened his eyes. In reality, he had long sensed that there were gods smashing down not far away. It was just that recovering his talent was more important, so he temporarily ignored it. And he stared at this old man and finally nodded. Thank you. He did not know why this old man wanted to help him, but Lin Ling had long seen countless schemes since he started learning martial arts. Therefore, he was extremely cautious. But what surprised Lin Ling was that there was nothing strange in the bottle that the old man handed over. Lin Ling had heard of the so-called illusory light of glorious dawn. Legend had it that it was the first ray of sunlight in the universe. It was stored in a bottle by a powerful method, and could recover the damage of the divine fetus talent. Unfortunately, it was rare for gods to have their talent damaged. Therefore, although this treasure seemed rare, its demand was not great. If not for encountering the poison diagram ants, Lin Ling would not even need such a treasure. Opening the bottle, a ray of sunlight shot out and then enveloped Lin Ling's body. Lin Ling felt warm all over. His damaged talent was also slowly recovering. He asked the old man, "Why did you help me?" "Nothing. I saw that your talent was damaged. In addition, although the illusory light of glorious dawn seems rare, it is not a precious treasure. Therefore I gave it to you." The old man smiled. "By the way, I am Sunrise Old Man. I came to the 8th level of the 8 gods' celestial palace with my daughter." Lin Ling nodded. After sensing that his talent had recovered by more than half, he asked again, "Are you not afraid that I will harm you?" "You? Young friend, you are only a mid-stage mid-god." The old man was stunned for a moment, then he laughed loudly. Lin Ling's eyes flashed. This old man was a late-stage mid-god and was not worth mentioning to him. However, this old man was not afraid of him. That's right, he should be in the last batch to enter. He did not see him kill a high god. In other words, if Sunrise Old Man knew that he had killed Emperor Song, not only would he not dare to help him, but he would also run away. Thank you. After a long time, Lin Ling stood up and bowed to the old man. Chapter 4754. Dao Realm. Lin Ling said. Dao Realm, then you shouldn't be from the Dao Tower. Old man Chengwang nodded. I came from the Dao Tower, but I didn't see you on the way. Late-stage mid-gods can also go to the Dao Tower? Lin Ling couldn't help but wonder. It depends on luck. Although I came from the Dao Tower, it doesn't mean I went to the Dao Tower. It's just that when I first came to the Dao Realm, the fog barrier was in the direction of the Dao Tower. After walking out of the fog barrier, I was in the area of the Dao Tower. The old man explained. You can do that. Lin Ling was secretly envious. He heard that others who wanted to go to the Dao Realm had to go through the fog barrier, but he didn't expect that some people would be directly in the vicinity of the Dao Tower. Let's go and see if we can meet some acquaintances. The 8th floor of the 8 Gods' Heavenly Palace is rumored to be very dangerous, so if we can team up, it'll be much safer. After Old Man Chengwang and Lin Ling exchanged a few words, a compass appeared in their hands, and they started to investigate. It seemed that he helped Lin Ling so that Lin Ling could team up with him. Over here, my daughter is also rushing over. Then Old Man Chengwang smiled excitedly and led Lin Ling forward through the forest. Lin Ling didn't refuse. It was his first time here, and he also wanted to familiarize himself with it. At least he knew where the dangers of the 8 Gods' Heavenly Palace were. A key appeared in his hand, and the key pointed in another direction, which made Lin Ling nod secretly. This key was obviously different, and the place it pointed to must be very important. Now, after familiarizing himself with this place, he planned to leave. Father. After walking out of the forest, 3 figures came from afar. They were all late-stage mid-gods, and one of them, a woman, shouted at Old Man Chengwang. This woman was tall and wore a gauze skirt as thin as a silkworm's wing. Many places were faintly discernible, and she was extremely attractive. However, the key places were concealed very well. Unfortunately, the more it was like this, the more it made people daydream. Old Man Chengwang. They obviously knew each other, and the other 2 also saluted Old Man Chengwang. Kong Chanzi Daoist Tian Luo. I didn't expect you to be here too. Chengwang Old Man also bowed slightly. Father, this is... The woman looked at Lin Ling and frowned slightly. This is Lin Ling. I met him on the way here. I thought that since this place is dangerous, the more people there are, the better. So I brought him here. Old Man Chengwang said with a smile. So that's how it is. The woman nodded. My name is Ming Shuguang. You can call me the Goddess of Dawn. Since my father has found you, let's go together. But let me say this first. If you encounter danger, you can leave first, but you can't betray us. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. Although the woman didn't chase Lin Ling away, she didn't expect any help from Lin Ling. Even if Lin Ling ran away, she wouldn't care as long as he didn't hurt anyone. Betray you? You must be joking. Lin Ling couldn't help but be taken aback. Then he shook his head and smiled. If the Goddess of Dawn looked down on Lin Ling wouldn't mind. But betray? Lin Ling hated people who betrayed others the most, not to mention that Chengwang Old Man had helped him. Who doesn't know how to do that? But forget it. I hope you can keep your word. The Goddess of Dawn frowned. She didn't like Lin Ling's attitude towards her. She also noticed that Lin Ling was only a mid-stage intermediate celestial. With such strength, shouldn't he be more polite to her? But for her father's sake, she couldn't be bothered with him. If you encounter danger, just protect yourself. If we can solve the danger, we will also save you. After saying that, the Goddess of Dawn started talking to the other 2 gods. However, just as she turned around, Lin Ling said calmly, if it's a danger that even I can't solve, I'm afraid you can't either. What? The Goddess of Dawn's eyes narrowed. The other 2 gods also frowned. This person is too arrogant. All right. Let's find more people as soon as possible. Chengwang Old Man quickly mediated. He was used to Lin Ling's arrogant attitude. This was because from the moment he saw Lin Ling, he felt that this kid was very cold. Forget it. I won't argue with you. The goddess of dawn frowned and snorted coldly. Then the group moved along the mountain range. There were millions of mountains here, stacked on top of each other like bamboo shoots. From time to time, there would be a terrifying aura emanating from the mountains. It was very ancient, and one couldn't underestimate it at all. Everyone knew that there must be an extremely powerful existence hiding here. Lin Ling followed the group. At the same time, he looked at the key and realized that although he wasn't really following the direction of the key, the distance was not too far. St. Yi, Grandpa Treasure God, Giant Ghost and the others. Lin Ling was also worried about St. Yi and the others. He secretly transmitted his voice to them, but the result was that they were extremely far away. As they continued moving forward, they met 3 more gods along the way. Chengwang Old Man and the others knew them. These 3 gods were led by mountain god Shamba, whose strength was also in the late stage of mid-level deity. The 2 sides clapped their hands and immediately set off together. This is the 8th level. I heard that not only are there treasures, but there is also the host body of the 8th world will. In the Tao Tower, a god said that whoever can find the host body of the 8th world will be rewarded with 100,000 Tao realm fragments. 100,000 Tao realm fragments. That's nothing. I heard that there was a divine sect of a magnate who rewarded any treasure needed to become a higher deity. It seems that the host body of the world will is very precious. These deities chatted as they walked, while Lin Ling listened quietly behind them. He too benefited a lot from this. These gods all came from the Tao Tower, so they knew much more than Lin Ling. It seems that the great god of Spirit Nation was right. The host body of the world will wants to devour its own people. It was not difficult for Lin Ling to guess who had issued such an order. It was probably the 3 divine sects of White Mountain. However, these 3 divine sects were also generous. After all, the treasures needed to become a higher deity were as vast as smoke. To be able to reward with such treasures meant that the 3 divine sects of White Mountain were determined to get the host body of the 8th world will. Look! Suddenly, Chengwang Old Man exclaimed. In the forest ahead, a corpse was lying on the ground. Looking at its appearance, it seemed to be a god from the Chaos realm. Be careful! The goddess of dawn immediately shouted and released her divine origin to guard against carelessness. The others also acted as if they were facing a great enemy. Lin Ling's soul power quietly spread out and immediately sensed that there was no danger around. He said indifferently, I guess the danger is not here. Maybe it's in the forest. Chapter 4755. Let's go and take a look. Everyone relaxed and moved forward cautiously. Then they saw that the god lying on the ground was an old man. He was probably a mid-stage mid-god. There was a wound on his chest and blood was flowing out. It seemed that he had been killed with a single blow. What? It's not a demonic beast. It looks like a human wound. Is there someone else on the 8th level? Maybe he was killed by an enemy. Everyone's expression changed slightly. They were extremely surprised. It's a sword wound. The goddess of dawn stared at the wound and said with a frown, and I can feel a strong divine energy from the wound. A swordsman? The answer rose in everyone's hearts. However, only a late-stage mid-god could kill a mid-stage mid-god with a single blow. Of course, they did not take this strength seriously. After all, everyone present was a late-stage mid-god. There was nothing to be afraid of. It seems that it was a false alarm. Immortal Tianluo sighed softly. He was really frightened just now. This person did not die here. He fled here. This means that he was hit in another place. At this moment, Lin Ling looked at the forest and saw that it was very dark and quiet. There seemed to be a faint sense of danger. This forest is not suitable for us to walk through, Lin Ling said with certainty. After Lin Ling's reminder, Old Man Chengwang and the others realized that this god was not killed at the edge of the forest. He had probably died in the forest. Do we have to go around this forest? The goddess of dawn looked up at the sky and said originally, the safest way was to fly through the sky. However, in this place, flying through the sky will become a thorn in one's side. It will be more dangerous. Moreover, this forest is very big. If we go around it, it will probably take a lot of time. So let's go through the forest. Dawn, I'm afraid that there are hidden dangers in this forest. If we go through it rashly, we will easily meet with misfortune. Old man Chengwang objected. He formed an enchantment with both hands, which turned into a ray of sunlight and shot into the forest to investigate everything. Unfortunately, there was nothing to be gained. Father, you are thinking too much. First of all, this person might have died at the hands of his enemy. He might not attack us. Secondly, even if he really wants to attack us, he is at most a late-stage mid-god. We have so many people here. Do you think we are afraid of him? The Twilight Goddess said, shaking her head. Chengwang old man nodded. His daughter was right. Everyone came to a unanimous decision, so they all headed towards the forest. Lin Ling frowned from behind. He had a feeling that the forest wasn't that simple, but he also wanted to know what dangers were hidden in the forest. After all, the 8th level was definitely filled with danger. It was better to know about some dangers in advance. If you're afraid, you can leave. Seeing that Lin Ling had not left, the Goddess of Dawn calmly said. Lin Ling shook his head. If it were any other time, he would have turned around and left. But now he followed them in. Everyone walked along the forest. At first, they were cautious, but soon they began to talk and laugh. His calm voice quietly spread through the forest, causing waves of echoes in the distance. However, the forest was still silent, as if it had a magical power that could make any living thing silent. After an unknown period of time, suddenly, a sword shot towards them. Clang! At the critical moment, a ray of light shot out, exploding with powerful divine energy to resist the sudden sword. The one who shot out the sword was the Goddess of Dawn. At this moment, she was holding a divine sword. She looked calmly into the distance and said, "Do you think we were careless? In fact, our unbridled conversation was to lure you out. Who the hell are you?" Her voice echoed, causing the entire forest to tremble. Chengwang old man and the others all looked into the distance. It was obvious that they had been prepared for a long time. This made Lin Ling nod secretly. These gods were not as arrogant as they appeared to be. They were actually meticulous. Your strength is not bad. At this moment, a figure finally walked out from the depths of the pitch-black forest. He was holding a sword, his long hair fluttering, and he was wearing a long black robe. This was a man about 20 years old. He didn't look like a god from the Chaos Realm. This was because his skin was very dark, and the power in his body was completely different. You are from the 8 Gods Celestial Palace? Everyone was shocked. That's right. The man nodded. His eyes were about to devour everyone, as if he wanted to kill all the gods here. The wills of the 8 gods. However, at this moment, Lin Ling also exclaimed. This caused the man's eyes to tremble. He looked at Lin Ling in shock and said, I didn't expect that someone could see through my real body. The wills of the 8 gods. The 8 gods had 8 faces, and each face could turn into a will. In addition to countless years of growth, their strength had reached a monstrous level. Among them, the giant ghost was one of the wills of the 8 gods. In fact, Lin Ling had encountered many wills of the 8 gods in the past, so he could see through them at a glance. The wills of the 8 gods. The Goddess of Dawn and the others were also shocked. Naturally, they had heard of this before. Since you know my identity, the first thing I'll do is kill you. At this moment, the man disappeared from the spot. His explosive speed was incomparably fast. His sword arrived in front of Lin Ling, surging with killing intent. This sword was incomparably fast. However, what surprised Lin Ling was that he sensed a mysterious divine staircase from this sword. Shock. This was the power of shock. Because of the shock, the opponent's strength was weakened by more than 10%. You want to kill him in front of me? Dream on. However, at this critical moment, a sword arrived. The Goddess of Dawn pointed forward, and a light sword appeared in front of Lin Ling as if it could cut open the universe. It instantly appeared in front of him and collided with the man's sword. Clang! The two swords collided, and the domineering aura seemed to destroy the entire forest. The man's sword was blocked by the Goddess of Dawn. The wills of the 8 gods. Is this the danger of the 8th level? Unfortunately, it's still a little weak. The Goddess of Dawn was unforgiving. She pointed forward, and countless rays of light appeared and turned into light swords in midair, shooting toward the man in a mighty manner. Her divine power had also reached 8,000, which was extremely terrifying. Most importantly, there were so many swords, but the goddess of dawn was extremely skilled in controlling them, as if they were her left and right hands. Boom! Boom! The man resisted tenaciously, but he was repeatedly hit by the swords. In the end, a sword pierced through his head, and then a large number of swords shot him to death. After falling, he turned into a wisp of gray gas and disappeared from the world. The goddess of dawn, what a powerful dawn 10,000 sword. Chapter 4756. The Twilight Goddess had 80 million streaks of divine power, and all of them had been transformed into swords. Among the late-stage mid-gods, there were few who could match her. Unless the late-stage mid-gods had 100 million streaks of divine power, only then would they be able to match the Twilight Goddess. However, such gods were extremely rare. It was no wonder that the others were filled with admiration. However, Lin Ling shook his head. Sword not bad. Unfortunately, it's a bit impatient. Haha. Previously, the astonishing willpower had its own consciousness. It should have asked him about the 8th level, but the Twilight Goddess was too impatient and actually killed it. Lin Ling had a feeling that on the 8th level, there were probably quite a few men like the one from before. Sure enough, just as he had this thought, a strange aura suddenly appeared in the depths of the forest. Then 5 divine swords flashed over. When they slashed out, it was as if they were going to cut the entire forest. However, although the forest looked ordinary, it was extremely powerful. The powerful techniques of the gods could not destroy it at all. It's here. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling also let out a low shout. Of course, he was more focused on investigating the forest. Suddenly, a terrifying thought appeared in his mind. Could it be that the forest was the real powerhouse behind the scenes? Or perhaps the entire forest was formed by the astonishing willpower? Be careful. Just as Lin Ling finished speaking, the Dawnlight Old Man also reacted. A sword appeared in his hand. It was the Dawnlight Sword. It was dazzling as if he was holding the sun in his hand. This sword was transformed from the Golden Crow, and was extremely unparalleled. He took a step forward and 1,000 doppelgangers appeared behind him. They all held the Dawnlight Sword in their hands and slashed towards the depths of the forest. Doppelganger. In ancient times, there were many gods who cultivated doppelgangers. The Dawnlight Old Man was one of them. Of course, such doppelgangers were also very ordinary. After all, there were only 1,000 doppelgangers. However, this did not stop the Twilight Goddess and the rest from exclaiming, "The Dawnlight Old Man has finally made his move." Spiritual Master Tianluo and the rest knew that the strongest person present was actually the Dawnlight Old Man. Boom! Numerous figures held the Dawnlight Sword and clashed with the sword that suddenly came from the forest. After a loud boom, the sword was blocked by the Dawnlight Old Man. Then countless doppelgangers drowned out. Gray shadows flashed like swords piercing through the void. Against the Dawnlight Old Man's doppelgangers, the mysterious person actually blocked them. This collision lasted for the time it takes to burn an incense stick, causing the Twilight Goddess and the others to suck in a breath of cold air. The dawnlight of the Dawnlight Old Man's defense was too strong, and he could not break even his attacks. Only Lin Ling secretly nodded his head. He could sense that there were 2 people being attacked by Sunrise Old Man. Most importantly, these 2 people looked exactly the same. Moreover, they both possessed the Will of Fright. This Will of Fright was like a divine staircase that could weaken a person's strength by 10%. Of the god's strength of the gods. It seems that divine abilities and techniques are not as effective as destroying them head-on. However, to do so, one would need to be 1/3 stronger than the opponent. Lin Lin had Dawnlight Old Gods. Of the goddess willpowers of the god of the S2 strength of God. S is strength. God of the god. The goddess of dawn frowned. It's been so many years. This is the first time we've met a foreign god. Not bad. Killing them should be able to increase our strength. The 2 of them looked exactly the same, but they had different thoughts, as if they were twins. You're too slow. How could you let them live? What a shame. At this moment, a few more figures came from the forest. Then the shadows flashed and condensed into several people. Looking carefully, it was the astonishing willpower again, and it was exactly the same as the previous few people. Now there were 8 of them. At this moment, The of the goddess of dawn and the others finally realized how troublesome the situation was. Of course, they were not afraid of one astonishing willpower, but now there were 8 of them. And it seemed that there were many astonishing willpowers. Suddenly, the of the goddess of dawn looked at Lin Ling, because Lin Ling had warned them before, but they had ignored him. When enemies meet on a narrow path, the brave will win. The current situation does not allow us to hesitate. Everyone, please do your best. The of the goddess of dawn looked away and said to everyone. Everyone had come from the Dao Tower and had fought countless battles. Soon they calmed down. Rumble. Powerful divine fetus talents burst out, either increasing their divine power, increasing their defense, or increasing their powerful divine fire. Their talents were among the 8th grade intermediate gods, and some of them were even at the 9th grade intermediate gods. Coupled with their late-stage intermediate gods, their strength was not weak. Fight! All kinds of magical powers were displayed, stirring up the whole forest. Clang! At this moment, the 8 wills of astonishment were also unleashing their powerful sword techniques. Wisps of godly energy were bursting out. The gods of the 2 sides quickly intertwined, forming a chaotic battle between the gods. Oh no, this is the astonishing willpower which can weaken our combat strength. After fighting for a while, the of the goddess of dawn finally realized the power of the astonishing willpower. Previously, although she had killed an astonishing willpower, she had been too impatient and had used her strongest attack, so she had not realized the power of the astonishing willpower. Suddenly, she remembered what Lin Ling had said. At that time, Lin Ling had said that she was too impatient, and now she finally understood what he meant. Why is Lin Ling's eyesight so good? The of the goddess of dawn also looked at Lin Ling and found that Lin Ling was also fighting with an astonishing willpower. It was dangerous, and it seemed like he would be defeated at any time. Forget it. I'll quickly kill my enemy and then help him. The of the goddess of dawn secretly said to herself, activating her strongest magical power. The other gods also knew that they had to end the battle quickly, because their strength had been weakened by 10%. The longer the battle went on, the more disadvantageous the situation would be. Someone used a forbidden technique and burned his divine blood, which actually increased his divine power by 100 million. Although it had been weakened by 10%, it still had 90 million divine power. In the end, he killed an astonishing willpower and turned it into a wisp of gray smoke. With one less opponent, he joined forces with the other gods to suppress another astonishing willpower. Tie it up. Someone used the god's stairs, which turned into a divine rope and tied up the astonishing willpower. The god's stairs was not affected much by the astonishing willpower. Then, another astonishing willpower was killed. Next, they nibbled away at it step by step. In the end, all 8 astonishing willpowers were killed, and the one fighting with Lin Ling was also killed with the help of the goddess of dawn. We're together, so there's no need to thank me. After helping Lin Ling kill the astonishing willpower, the of the goddess of dawn said calmly. Chapter 47:57. The result was that these wills of astonishment could not weaken the steps of God. Of course, the 8th level was full of danger, but it did not mean that the other wills of astonishment did not have such strength. It was better to be careful. Look, that wisp of gray gas is dissipating. Suddenly, Old Man Changguang pointed to the front and said, previously, when the goddess of dawn killed a wills of astonishment, the latter also turned into gray gas and dissipated, but they did not pay much attention to it. Now they had sensed that something was amiss. Catch it! Taoist Tianluo used his divine ability to bind the strand of gray gas, and then stored it in a jade bottle. After carefully inspecting it, he said in surprise, I don't know what this gray gas is, but it contains astonishing energy. It seems that it's a good treasure. Everyone store the remaining gray gas. Don't waste it. After Taoist Tianluo's reminder, everyone reacted. Fortunately, the gray gas needed some time to float to the sky and dissipate, so there was no hurry. Lin Ling did not collect it. Instead, he stared at the sky above the forest, and a thought came to his mind. Could it be that the gas was finally absorbed by the forest, and then the wills of astonishment were revived? What an arrogant junior! How dare you touch my people in my territory? But at this moment, a powerful aura suddenly descended and the ground shook. Countless gray gas intertwined, and then turned into a slender figure. It was another Wills of Astonishment. The most terrifying thing was that this Wills of Astonishment were stronger than the previous 8. The aura emitted from his body was that of a superior deity. The sword in his hand was also longer, and it emitted a light like a sea urchin, which was frightening. With just a glance, everyone felt afraid, and the strength they could use was also reduced slightly. And this was just looking with their eyes. If they really fought, they were afraid that more people would be affected. Given the fact that the other party was a high god, how could they possibly fight? Why are there so many Wills of Astonishment? No, he's not a superior deity yet. I can only say that he's very close to one. Even if he's not a superior deity with our current state, it's difficult for us to fight. We used all our strength to kill the 8 Wills of Astonishment. Everyone frowned, feeling that the situation was not good. In the previous battle, they had consumed too much energy. Even if they joined forces now, they would not be a match for this shocking will. No one has come to this place for many years. We've waited for you for so long. Unfortunately, you're not the people we've been waiting for. The man's long hair fluttered in the wind. He looked at the goddess of dawn and the others coldly and said, "Since you are not the people we want, then stay." As soon as he finished speaking, he slashed with his sword. "Be careful." The goddess of dawn, Dawnlight Elder, and the others all cried out in alarm. They mobilized their remaining divine power in an attempt to resist that terrifying sword. However, they were already weak to begin with. Coupled with the fact that the other party could affect their strength, they felt that their strength had been weakened by more than 40% before they even started fighting. Even the god who had used the god stairs earlier found that his own god stairs had been affected. Not only could this shocking will affect the power of the gods, it could also affect the steps of the gods. All of you are still too weak. The shocking willpower also sneered in disdain. Clang! However, his sword was quickly blocked by someone in a gray robe. What was terrifying was that this gray robe was like another shocking willpower. It was also emitting a gray color. However, upon closer inspection, it was not the shocking willpower. "It's him." Dawnlight Elder stared at the person who had attacked and recognized that it was Lin Ling. He blocked the shocking willpower's sword. The goddess of dawn also exclaimed. The strength that the shocking willpower had unleashed was definitely more than 100 million units of divine power. In order to be on par with it, one's overall strength had to be more than 100 million units of divine power. After all, the other party could weaken the power of the gods. Without 100 million units of divine power, how could one fight? He previously said that if there was a danger that even he could not deal with, it would be useless for us to fight. Now it seems like that is really the case. Taoist Tianluo frowned tightly. He did not understand how a mid-stage middle deity could be so powerful. "Who are you?" At this moment, the shocking willpower held his sword and looked coldly at Lin Ling. He was also very surprised. "Someone who is not afraid of you." Lin Ling raised his head. He realized that the other party could affect his power of the gods on the steps of the gods, but could not affect his physical strength. On the other hand, he had a physical strength of 50 million units and 50 million units of divine power. That was a total of 100 million units. However, with such strength, the shocking willpower could only remain undefeated. Heaven-splitting slash, earth-splitting slash. Lin Ling wanted to test it out and activated the Pengu's strike. He wanted to see if the Pengu's strike would be affected. However, it was not. On the other hand, after the Pengu's strike was used, the shocking willpower's divine power could not affect Lin Ling at all. What? The startling willpower immediately sensed something. After he could not affect Lin Ling began to take control of the situation and slashed out with his sword. Rumble! The shocking willpower was sent flying and broke many trees. When he looked at Lin Ling again, he took a step forward and activated the Quafu Sun chasing boots and chased after the willpower. What powerful strength! His means are unheard of. He seems to be a mid-level middle deity, but because he has so many powerful means, his combat strength is stronger than ours. "Father, where did you invite this person?" The goddess of twilight and the rest were discussing and were shocked by Lin Ling's strength. Especially the goddess of twilight. When she thought of how she had looked down on Lin Ling, she suddenly felt ashamed. This. Chengwang old man smiled bitterly. He had met Lin Ling on the road. He had thought that Lin Ling was a small fry, so he had brought him along. Who knew that Lin Ling would be so powerful? If he had known that Lin Ling was so powerful, he would not have dared to invite him along. After all, if Lin Ling wanted to harm them, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. Of course, he knew that he had overthought. After all, if Lin Ling wanted to harm them, he would not have waited until now. Ha, you have met a powerful, shocking willpower, right? At this moment, a loud laugh suddenly came from the depths of the forest. More than 10 figures flew in and appeared in front of Chengwang old man and the rest. These people were unfamiliar to them. However, they could tell that they were gods from the Chaos Realm. It seems that you have killed many shocking willpowers. However, we have sensed an even stronger shocking willpower. That willpower is comparable to a superior deity. Now you are in trouble. One of the men said with a sinister smile. Why are you talking nonsense with them? Now that someone has helped us to stop that powerful shocking willpower, we can reap the benefits. Chapter 4758. Obviously, they had encountered the shocking intent earlier than the Dawnlight Elder, so they knew how precious the gray gas was. Robbers. The Twilight Goddess and the others reacted, and their faces turned ugly. If it were any other time, they would not be afraid of these people, but in their current state, it was indeed difficult to win. You guys are too shameless. Although she knew she was no match for them, the Twilight Goddess could not help but shout coldly. You want to fight? Don't think that I won't dare to kill you just because you are a woman. The man in the lead sneered coldly. He looked like he was really going to kill her. After all, there were many gods in different eras, so it was normal that they did not know each other. Since they did not know each other, there was no need to give face. Even if they killed her, it would have no effect on the Chaos Realm and the Tao Realm. Evil Emperor, don't complicate matters. However, the gods beside him immediately dissuaded him. They looked into the depths of the forest, obviously afraid of the shocking intent from before. Consider yourself lucky. The evil emperor also knew that they dared to snatch the treasure when the shocking intent was not around. If the shocking intent returned, they would be in a lot of trouble. Hurry! Next, they did not waste any more time. They wanted to snatch the gray gas. Yo, where did these gods come from? How shameless are you to snatch the treasure like this? However, just as they started to move, a lazy voice was heard. Everyone turned around and saw a figure slowly walking out from the depths of the forest. It was Lin Ling. When they looked behind Lin Ling, the shocking intent from before had disappeared. Instead, there was an even larger gas floating in Lin Ling's palm, as if it was controlled by Lin Ling. This. Everyone was so scared that their snot was about to run down. Could it be that the shocking intent from before had been killed by this kid? One had to know that the shocking intent from before was comparable to a superior god. It must be fake. The Twilight Goddess and the Dawnlight Elder looked at each other in shock, especially the Twilight Goddess. She felt even more ashamed in her heart. Why would Lin Ling need her protection? Looking at the evil emperor and the other gods, they felt like they were dreaming. It's him. Most importantly, they came from the Chaos Realm and were the earliest to come to the Void of the 9 States. They had seen Lin Ling kill a superior god with their own eyes, so they knew how terrifying this kid was. No wonder he could kill the shocking intent. It was this monster. You, what do you want? The evil emperor asked anxiously. I don't want to do anything. Get lost now and I can pretend that nothing happened. Lin Ling said indifferently. The evil emperor and the evil emperor. Then he shot the emperor and the evil emperor. The emperor and emperor rushed the emperor and then shot. Then the emperor and the emperor. Looking at the others, they were all the same. They courting death. Lin Ling sneered as he unleashed the speed of the Quafu sun-chasing boots and slashed out with his sword. Rumble. The evil emperor's arm was immediately cut off, and a sword blocked in front of him, making it difficult for him to move forward. So fast. The evil emperor's face was pale. Previously, he dared to fight for the treasure because he wanted to take advantage of Lin Ling's carelessness. Moreover, there were many of them. If they scattered, Lin Ling would not be able to catch up. But who knew that Lin Ling would be the first to attack him? You think my words go in one ear and out the other? Lin Ling sneered. I was wrong. I don't want this gray gas. The evil emperor put down the gray gas and retreated carefully. I think you'd better throw away your life. Lin Ling took the evil emperor's life with a slash. He had given the evil emperor a chance, but the evil emperor missed it. So Lin Ling was not to be blamed. After that, Lin Ling retrieved that wisp of gray gas and even found 2 more wisps of gray gas on the evil emperor's body before slowly walking back. Lin Ling, the others have escaped. Seeing Lin Ling return, the Morning Light old man said respectfully, Don't worry, they can't escape. Lin Ling smiled and shook his head. Because I realized that this forest has the strongest will of astonishment. The ones before were just small fries. In fact, after we entered the forest we were targeted. It's not easy to leave. But who knew that these guys would take our place? We're going to die. Now let's use them as bait and leave quickly. Hearing this, the Morning Light old man and the others were shocked. Then, seeing Lin Ling quickly move forward, they hurriedly followed. In fact, the gods had indeed attracted the attention of the forest when they left quickly. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Many gray men appeared, holding swords and blocking the gods. Not good, the will of astonishment. Most importantly, these gods had moved alone to shake off Lin Ling. This meant that they had to face at least 2 wills of astonishment. Why are there suddenly so many wills of astonishment? And they could not understand it at all. They did not know that because they left quickly, the forest targeted them first. This also gave Lin Ling and the others time to leave the forest. Of course, Lin Ling and the others also encountered wills of astonishment, but there were not many of them. Working together, they barely managed to deal with them. Lin Ling did not make a move during the whole process. He was afraid that he would attract the attention of the forest and let stronger wills of astonishment come. After a long time, Lin Ling and the others safely rushed out of the forest. They all had complicated expressions. They did not expect that a seemingly ordinary forest would have the power to kill gods. I should have heard that you don't enter the forest before. The Twilight Goddess looked at Lin Ling apologetically. It's okay. What will come will come. It's better to know earlier. Lin Ling waved his hand casually. Although he sensed danger in the forest, if he took a detour to avoid the danger, Lin Ling would never know about the will of astonishment. And the will of astonishment was probably related to the giant ghost. It was better to know earlier. Moreover, when Lin Ling killed the strongest will of astonishment, he heard it say that they were not the people they were looking for. Could it be that they were looking for the other wills of the 8 gods? Lin Ling could not help but worry about the giant ghost. After leaving the forest, the group advanced along the Million Mountains. After what had happened, they did not dare to fly casually for fear of becoming a thorn in their side. At the same time, a roar came from the distant sky. Lin Ling and the others looked back, and their expressions changed drastically. Because the sky in the distance had been torn apart, and a large area of dark clouds poured in. However, Lin Ling and the others knew that those were not dark clouds, but poisonous ants. These ants were chasing them relentlessly and had actually chased them to the 8th level. Chapter 47:59. Lin Ling and the rest advanced cautiously along the mountain range. The shocking willpower from before had undoubtedly made them feel a strong sense of danger. Along the way, Lin Ling also checked the gray gas. The gas was contained in a jade bottle. At this moment it was swirling and rolling in the jade bottle. It was very mysterious. Brother Lin Ling, what is this? The Twilight Goddess had also obtained a wisp of gray gas. She frowned and asked. After what had happened before, they had more or less respected Lin Ling. Moreover, they did not avoid Lin Ling just because Lin Ling was stronger. This was because they all knew that with Lin Ling's strength, he could harm them at any time. Putting everything else aside, he could have abandoned them and left. Why would he save them? I don't know, but I can ask. Lin Ling pondered for a moment, then said to everyone, let's find a place to rest. Okay. Everyone nodded. Then, Lin Ling took out the square prison and entered it. Although the square prison was Lin Ling's secret, the Sunrise Elder and the rest were in awe of Lin Ling's strength. They would not dare to act rashly. Moreover, they might not even know what kind of treasure the square prison was. Under such circumstances, they wouldn't arouse any greed in their hearts. Old ghost, what is this? Lin Ling found Old Ghost and asked. When Old Ghost saw Lin Ling in the prison, he immediately revealed his yellow teeth and laughed. This is a strong willpower. However, I don't know who this willpower belongs to. My lord, you should ask Old Ghost. Lin Ling was secretly surprised. Old Ghost was an ancient deity. He did not expect that even he could not see through it. He immediately took his leave and headed towards Third Great Lord's 3 cells. Originally, Lin Ling wanted to see Monkey King. However, when he thought of the Kunlun divine fire, he gave up. Instead, he asked Guang Chengzi. This is the will of the 8 gods. Lin Ling, you've entered the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Guang Chengzi was obviously very familiar with these wills. Back then, he and the 8 gods could be considered friends despite their age difference. What's the use of this will? Seeing Guang Chengzi's familiarity, Lin Ling's eyes lit up. This can raise one's divine steps. It's a rare treasure. If we let our wills devour wills, our strength will increase greatly. Guang Chengzi said. Will devours will. Lin Ling's expression changed. The first thing that came to mind was the giant ghost. If the giant ghost could devour these wills, its strength would be greatly enhanced. Of course, these wills probably also wanted to devour the giant ghost, so the giant ghost situation would be even more dangerous. Lin Ling, you're probably on the 8th floor now. Hurry up and find the Temple of Will. Get in there and get the cyclic sky seal. I think the great emperor of Jingji has already woken up. He has 40% of the 8 gods' strength. You can't fight against him. After all, he's the other side of the 8 gods. Guang Chengzi said. Apart from the great emperor of Jingji, there are probably many kings of wills comparable to superior gods. If you encounter them, you'll be in trouble. Okay, thank you, Guang Chengzi. Lin Ling was familiar with the great emperor of Jingji. Next, he looked for the key. His top priority was to find the cyclic sky seal, find the giant ghost, and finally get the world will host. The cyclic sky seal was Lin Ling's trump card on the 8th floor. Guang Chengzi also emphasized that Lin Ling must find the cyclic sky seal first. Otherwise, he would be in danger. After leaving the square prison, Lin Ling also explained the use of the gray gas. Raise one's divine steps? The divine steps have 6 stages. It's very difficult to raise them. I didn't expect the gray gas to have such an effect. If there isn't a god staircase, is it possible to create a god staircase with this gray gas? When Sunrise Elder and the others heard this, they were all shocked. The birth of divine steps was very difficult. It was even more difficult than raising one's divine fetus talent. For so many years, many gods had worked hard in this area, but they were surprised to find that the birth of divine steps seemed to be related to one's talent, but sometimes it was unrelated. Some powerful talents could give birth to divine steps after being raised, and some talents were still very weak. Even so, they could give birth to the divine steps. However, it just so happened that some high-level talents couldn't give birth to god stairs. In the end, the gods came to a decision. A talent that could give birth to divine steps probably had an extremely powerful bloodline back in the day. Let's continue. If we encounter any weak great emperor of Jingji along the way, we'll kill it. Lin Ling was also looking forward to the gray gas. He now had 2 divine steps, the step of killing and the step of wisdom. If he could raise them both, his strength would undoubtedly rise to another level, especially the step of killing, which was even more important. After all, the step of wisdom was used to seal things. It had helped Lin Ling a lot over the years. Unfortunately, ever since Lin Ling learned the 3 extremes of the universe, the step of wisdom was no longer of much help. For powerful gods, the divine fetus talent was the foundation and the driving force of one's realm. However, the most basic combat strength depended on divine power. Divine steps, on the other hand, were like secret weapons. Gods with divine steps might not be able to suppress those without divine steps, but if 2 people were equal in strength, the one with divine steps would undoubtedly be stronger. The giant ghost is very far away from me. However, the key points in the direction of the giant ghost. Unfortunately, the most important thing now is to find the cyclic sky seal. According to Guang Chengzi, the cyclic sky seal is in another direction. Let's go find it first. Lin Ling pondered for a while and finally came up with a plan. Although he wanted to help the giant ghost, he also knew that he was too weak. Even if he could find the giant ghost, He wouldn't be a match for the strong ones. Die. Along the way, Lin Ling and the others killed a few wills of surprise. Then they divided the loot equally. Your Excellency, you dare to come to the 8th level? Are you looking for death? Now that there are many gods on the 8th level, it's good for us. The wills of surprise that appeared along the way all had their own consciousness. Lin Ling wanted to get their gray gas, and similarly, they wanted to get some energy from Lin Ling and the others. This was obviously a game of killing. Either you die or I die. Fortunately, the wills of surprise that Lin Ling and the others encountered were not very strong, so they were safe and sound. And the White Maiden is in this direction. Running in the direction of the cyclic sky seal, Lin Ling's eyes suddenly lit up. They all had voice transmission jade talismans, so they could roughly detect each other's directions. Therefore, Lin Ling quickly found the White Maiden closest to him. Chapter 4760. Old Man Chengwang, I'm going to help my friends. If you think it's too dangerous, let's part ways here. After making up his mind, Lin Ling looked at Old Man Chengwang and the rest. It's okay. There are too many dangers on the 8th level. We'll follow you. Yes, although we also want to find the stone tablet where the will of the realm is, it's better to do what we can. Old Man Chengwang and the rest laughed. Although they had only known Lin Ling for a short time, they all believed in Lin Ling's character. All right, let's go together. Lin Ling pondered and finally nodded. Old Man Chengwang and the rest were not weak. With them around, it would be more or less helpful. Over there. Then Lin Ling sensed that White Maiden was getting closer and closer. He could not help but speed up. At this moment, in a valley, 7 figures united and constantly fighting the wills of astonishment. White Maiden was among the 7 of them. However, she was the weakest among them. After all, she was only a mid-stage mid-deity. Looking at the other 6, 4 of them were late-stage mid-deities, while the other 2 were mid-stage mid-deities. However, their strength was slightly stronger than White Maiden's. Most importantly, they all knew White Maiden and were close friends with her father, the Sky River Water God. It was also because of this that they had been helping White Maiden all this time. However, their situation was extremely unfavorable. This was because they were surrounded by 20 wills of astonishment. Moreover, one of them was extremely powerful and had strength comparable to a high-level deity. This wills of astonishment crossed his arms and did not attack recklessly. He held his sword and looked in a certain direction as if he was waiting for something. The few of you should just surrender yourselves. Why are you stubbornly resisting? You are no match for us at all. The 2 women are quite good-looking. I want one of them. Sword light flashed as the wills of astonishment sneered and attacked continuously. They did not look like wills at all. Instead, they looked more like humans. Under their combined strength, White Maiden and the rest's strength was suppressed by more than 40%. Therefore, the situation was even more dangerous. 23 wills of astonishment, and the wills of astonishment that have been watching from the sidelines is probably the king of wills. It won't be easy to swallow them all. However, the night god said that these willpower puppets can raise the divine steps. So these willpower puppets belong to us. Let's wait until those small gods are all dead before we make our move. We can also reap the benefits without doing anything. But I reckon that the Will Monarch must have sensed us, so he hasn't made a move yet. Far away in the valley, more than a dozen figures stood there and sneered at the scene below. When ordinary people encountered so many shocking wills, they would definitely avoid the limelight and leave. However, they didn't because they had sufficient confidence in themselves. More importantly, they had a high god amongst them. This was the Night Demon, an ancient god from the Dao-En Tower. One Will Monarch is nothing, but I'm most afraid of several Will Monarchs appearing. I heard that these wills of astonishment are formed from the millions of mountains, forests, and lakes on the 8th floor. This means that there are innumerable wills, and it's impossible to guard against them. If all the wills of astonishment awaken, then we'll be in trouble. We'll be surrounded with nowhere to run. Also, I've always been afraid of certain things happening, such as the birth of the strongest will of astonishment. The Night Demon said calmly. Senior Night Demon is right. I only hope that when that happens, we'll be able to find the host body of the world will, and complete our master's mission. Then we can leave. We've also found the way out. It's the sky we came from, but I saw that the sky is now filled with poison diagram ants. If we want to go back, we'll have to go through a lot of twists and turns. Poison diagram ants, will of astonishment. TSK, the dangers of the 8th floor seem simple, but they're powerful and violent. No one dares to face them head-on. The other gods spoke one after another. All right, the King of Will has sensed that we're not on the same side as those small gods. He's about to make his move. At this moment, the night demon sneered and said, when those small gods die, we'll make our move. We'll take the puppet of Will and leave immediately. He didn't know the 7 people who were surrounded, so he naturally wouldn't help them. He even hoped that they would die so that they wouldn't fight with him for the puppet of Will. At this moment, the situation of the besieged Whitewater Pure Maiden and the others was getting worse and worse, because they realized that their strength had been suppressed by more than 50%. Even the god steps were being suppressed. It seems that the strongest will of astonishment is about to make his move. An old man sighed and stared solemnly at the will of astonishment, who had his arms crossed in front of his chest. Pure Maiden, I didn't expect that when we meet again it'll be a time of life and death. It's a pity that I didn't get to see your father. That's a great regret. Back in the day, your father and I roamed the world. How happy it was. Back then you were just a young girl. The old man looked at Whitewater Pure Maiden and said, Fengbua, my father also misses you very much. Empyrean Maiden smiled. She knew all of these people and was very familiar with them. When she was young, she often followed her father and watched him rebuke the heavens and earth with these old comrades. These people were the lake gods and river gods, so they naturally had a good relationship with her father. Pure Maiden, where have you been all these years? An old woman asked Whitewater Pure Maiden. In the void of the 9 states. Whitewater Pure Maiden immediately replied. No wonder we couldn't find you. Ever since we reincarnated, we've been looking for your father and you. It turns out that you weren't in the Chaos Realm. The old woman smiled and nodded. All right, let's stop reminiscing. The strongest will of astonishment is about to make his move. At this moment, the old man who spoke at the beginning solemnly reminded. Don't worry, my lord is already here. If he comes, we'll definitely be able to escape. Whitewater Pure Maiden also knew that the situation was troublesome, but she was still confident. Your lord. Everyone was shocked. Yes, he's the lord I met in the void of the 9 states. Whitewater Pure Maiden nodded. Hearing this, everyone smiled bitterly. They originally thought that it was some powerful god, but it turned out to be from the void of the 9 states. What's his strength? The old woman asked curiously. Although this lord's origin was ordinary, it was possible that he was very powerful. Mid-stage mid-god. Whitewater Pure Maiden said. Hearing this, everyone's face became even more gloomy. This was because there were several late-stage mid-gods present, but they were still helpless. Mid-stage mid-gods were probably cannon fodder. Don't worry, he's not weak. Chapter 4761. Clang. At that moment, the strongest will of shock finally drew its sword. The sword was gray in color, and when it pointed at Whitewater Pure Maiden and the others, it was as if the sky changed color, and space seemed to be sealed. A violent atmosphere enveloped the entire valley, terrifying everyone. Whitewater Pure Maiden and the others' strength was suppressed again, leaving them with only 30% of their strength. With such strength, not to mention the strongest will of shock, even the other wills of shock could easily kill them. A sword light like a mirror shone in the eyes of Whitewater Pure Maiden and the others. It was very dazzling, making them feel as if the sky and earth had disappeared, leaving behind only a sword. A sword of shock. At that moment, everyone acted as if they were facing a great enemy, and they used all their trump cards. Although they knew it wouldn't be of much help, they didn't want to be like chickens and ducks, waiting to be captured. However, at that moment a figure came from afar. This person flew over, as if he wasn't afraid of the wills of shock in the millions of mountains. After shooting down like a meteor, his palm slashed down as if it could split the sky and earth. Panga strike, break the heavens. Bastard, aren't you afraid of attracting the attention of all the wills of shock in the millions of mountains? In the distance, Yi Bumo and the other gods cursed angrily. One had to know that there was a taboo in the 8th level, and that was to not fly. If one flew, it would awaken the wills of shock in the millions of mountains, and the situation would become even more troublesome, even affecting Yi Bumo and the others. This person. Looking at Whitewater Pure Maiden and the others, their pupils were also trembling. Clang! As for the strongest will of shock, his eyes froze, and the sword that was originally aimed at Whitewater Pure Maiden and the others suddenly slashed behind him. He had obviously sensed that someone was coming from behind. Rumble. It seemed slow, but it actually happened in the blink of an eye. A sword against a palm in the sky, creating a terrifying storm that swept through all the nearby mountains. However, what was shocking was that the newcomer was actually on par with the will of shock. Impossible. Why isn't your strength suppressed? The will of shock also let out a shocked voice. It can affect the power of gods and the steps of gods, but it can't affect the most ancient divine ability. The newcomer seemed to be above the 9 heavens, and he sneered. He was Lin Ling. What powerful strength! Who is this person? Everyone around Whitewater Pure Maiden cried out in alarm, sucking in a breath of cold air. He is my lord. Whitewater Maiden hurriedly said. What? Is he the lord you were talking about? Oh my god, so strong? Maiden Su, are you lying to us? Is he really a mid-stage mid-god with such strength? Hearing Whitewater Pure Maiden's words, the surrounding gods were all dumbfounded. Just what kind of master did Whitewater Pure Girl worship? It was too abnormal. This god can only fight against the strongest will of shock. Let's go help him. Very soon, these gods all cheered excitedly as if they had seen the hope of survival. No need, we'll just take care of these small fries. However, Pure Maiden White shook her head. The 6 gods were astonished. She didn't need help? For a mid-stage mid-god to be able to resist the most powerful will of astonishment, they already felt that it was amazing. Could it be that this god was going to kill his opponent? This was completely impossible. Universe 3 Extreme Destruction. Demon Vanquishing Cleave. But for Lin Ling, how could it be impossible? It was not as if Lin Ling had not killed this powerful will of astonishment before. The cosmic ray appeared like a great seal, locking onto the strongest will of astonishment and then cutting him up. What kind of power is this? The will of astonishment let out a loud roar. His strength was comparable to a high god, but after all, he was not a high god. He could not resist Lin Ling's Universe 3 Extreme Destruction. Your will of astonishment can weaken God's energy and steps of God, but unfortunately, it can't weaken soul energy. Lin Ling sneered, and the great light ray slashed out, completely annihilating the shocking will. At the same time, Sunrise Old Man and the others also appeared on the ground to help Whitewater Pure Maiden and the others. Of course, they were also shocked. Previously, in the forest, there was also the strongest will of astonishment, but it died in Lin Ling's hands. But at that time, they did not see how Lin Ling killed it. But now they finally saw it. And after seeing it with their own eyes, they felt even more terrified of Lin Ling. No wonder Lin Ling was so arrogant when he first saw them. It turned out that he had the right to be arrogant. My lord. Seeing Lin Ling holding the gray gas and descending from the sky, Whitewater Pure Maiden immediately shouted in surprise, and her heart was filled with pride. Because to be able to show her lord's strength in front of her father's friends, this made her feel extremely proud. Whitewater Pure Maiden, are you alone? Lin Ling walked towards Whitewater Pure Lady and said with a smile, Yes, God Emperor Zhonggang is not far from me and is now rushing over. Shangyi Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu and Giant Ghost are on the other side. Whitewater Pure Maiden nodded and said, Thank you for saving my life, senior. At this moment, Bai Shuijin's friends came over and saluted Lin Ling with their hands cupped together. Their expressions were full of awe. Senior? Whitewater Pure Maiden immediately shook her head helplessly. She had always regarded Lin Ling as her immediate superior, but her father's friends called Lin Ling senior. Didn't that mean that Lin Ling was her senior? This seniority was really messed up. Whitewater Pure Maiden. These are your friends. Lin Ling smiled at these gods, then looked at Whitewater Pure Maiden and said. Whitewater Pure Maiden nodded and roughly explained their origins, which made Lin Ling understand. What great strength! I didn't expect that a late-stage mid-god could actually obliterate a king of will. While they were talking, an indifferent voice suddenly sounded, and then a dozen gods floated down from the distance. The one in the lead was Night Bumo. Night Bumo. The faces of Whitewater Pure Maiden's friends changed. They came from the Tao Tower and naturally recognized Night Bumo. He was one of the 6 superior gods who had entered the 8 gods' celestial palace. What's so strange about that? You have a superior god, but you hide in the distance and want to reap the benefits. You're really thick-skinned. Lin Ling was not surprised by the appearance of Night Bumo and his friends. In fact, he had noticed them long ago. And if he remembered correctly, Night Bumo was a member of the 3 divine gates of White Mountain. You've got guts. If you have the ability, tell me your name. Night Bumo was extremely surprised by Lin Ling. When he was in the void of the 9 continents, he thought that only the other 5 superior gods, the great gods of Spirit Nation, and Taoist Duobao would be worthy of his attention. He didn't expect that there was a powerful minor god hidden here. It was his fault for not noticing it. Lei Gong Lin Ling. Lin Ling didn't hide anything and said indifferently, Lei Gong Lin Ling. Chapter 4762. Lei Gong Lin Ling. Yi Bumo stared coldly at Lin Ling, as if he was pronouncing Lin Ling's death sentence. You've ruined the plans of the 3 holy gates of White Mountain many times. In the Jojo Void in the Tao Realm today, I'll punish you in the name of an ancient god and take your life. You can refuse to accept it, but it's useless. Although Lin Ling's strength surprised Yi Bumo. That was all. If Yi Bumo wanted to kill Lin Ling, he would only need 70% of his strength. Oh no! The expressions of Pure Lady Bai Shui and the other gods changed slightly. Yi Bumo, an unparalleled god, was too strong. He wasn't someone they could fight against. If you want to fight, let's fight. At this time Lin Ling also spoke coldly. The grudge between him and the 3 holy gates of White Mountain couldn't be erased with just a few words. What was to come would come. They have nothing to do with this. Let them leave. Looking at Chengwang Elder and the others, Lin Ling also made a request when he saw their pale faces. Ha ha ha, what does it have to do with me? As long as I'm with you, I'll die. But who knew that Yi Bumo would laugh loudly and not give them any face? Lin Ling's eyes instantly turned cold. Although it was the first time he met Yi Bumo, his murderous intent was aroused. Do you think you can definitely kill us? Lin Ling spoke again. Suddenly, he pointed into the distance and said, Open your dog eyes and look. At this moment, a large amount of gray gas rushed into the sky from the millions of mountains. It was vast and mighty, and its power shook the heavens. This was the will of shock. Will of shock, so many wills of shock. The gods beside Yi Bumo all changed their expressions. Yi Bumo was stunned for a moment, and veins appeared on his forehead. Previously, when Lin Ling flew across the sky, it had undoubtedly awakened a large amount of wills of shock. When these wills of shock arrived, even if they could win, it would definitely be a Pyrrhic victory. Without a doubt, they were cleaning up Lin Ling's mess. Yi Bumo, let's retreat first. Some of the gods said to Night Bumo, their hearts filled with thoughts of retreating. That's right, that's right. There are plenty of opportunities to kill this little god. Lin Ling, Lord Night Demon, is unparalleled in the world. Why bother with this little god? The other gods also spoke up one after another. It could be seen that they were a little scared. If you want to fight, then come. If you don't dare to fight, then scram. Otherwise, don't be so noisy. As Yi Bumo gritted his teeth, Lin Ling sneered. Originally, Yi Bumo hadn't planned on leaving, as he had felt humiliated by Lin Ling. However, before he could make a decision, Lin Ling had become even more arrogant. Did he really think that he could protect him just because he had the will of shock? You're really courting death because the price of completely infuriating me is very, very great. Yi Bumo said word by word. Do you think that I'll be scared because of those wills of shock? Let me tell you, when those wills of shock arrive, killing you will be as easy as flipping my hand. After killing you, I'll leave, and those wills of shock may not be able to catch up to me. Everyone listen to my orders. Kill them with all your might, don't leave a single one alive. Ha ha ha, Lin Ling, now you know regret. Now you know what kind of existence you've provoked. Yi Bumo laughed maniacally, his eyes filled with ice-cold murderous intent. When the other gods heard this, although they felt that this was too dangerous, Yi Bumo had already decided, so they could only risk their lives to accompany him. However, they also hated Lin Ling to death. This piece of trash had actually put them in a situation where they had a slim chance of survival. Haha, Yibumo, you're too full of yourself. You still can't kill me. Seeing Yibumo's cold smile, Lin Ling no longer hid his methods. He used the last seedling and raised it into the air. The wills of shock are all bodies of consciousness. You're the strongest one here. When they all move out, they'll definitely kill you first, then kill us. Thank you for blocking the main force of the wills of shock for us. After throwing out the seedling, Lin Ling hurriedly left with Bai Shui and Su Nu. Yibumo's pupils constricted. He wanted to stop Lin Ling, but he found a seedling floating over with an incomparably powerful aura. What is this? Yibumo was completely shocked. When he was in the void of the 9 continents, he was a latecomer and did not see Lin Ling use 3 seedlings to kill Emperor Song. He thought that Lin Ling was just a slightly more powerful intermediate god. Now the mysterious seedling floated over. He obviously could not attack Lin Ling, so he could only use all his strength to resist this seedling. This seedling's power was terrifying. It immediately wrapped around Yibumo and crazily absorbed his spirit energy. Lord Yibumo! The other gods all cried out in alarm and frantically tried to help. However, when their attacks landed on the seedling emitted a gentle light and actually blocked a large number of attacks. However, Yibumo was stronger than Emperor Song. Moreover, Lin Ling had used 2 seedlings to kill Emperor Song. Now with 1 seedling, it could only injure Yibumo, but not kill him. Of course, Lin Ling did not expect the seedling to kill Yibumo. He just wanted to stall for time. Now Lin Ling had already led everyone and shot into the distance. Looking at the mighty wills of shock, they actually turned into countless men holding swords and attacked like a storm. Yibumo and the others stood where they were and undoubtedly faced more wills of shock. Among them, there were many kings of wills. As for Lin Ling and the others, they also attracted a lot of wills of shock, but it was not as much as Yibumo's side. Rumble! At this moment, Yibumo finally exploded the seedling. However, just as he escaped danger, he looked around and saw that the dense wills of shock had already surrounded them. IIF*CK. Yibumo was stunned for a long time before he finally cursed. Originally, according to his plan, as long as he killed Lin Ling and the others and left immediately, he would be able to escape the encirclement of the wills of shock. However, no matter how much he calculated, he did not expect that Lin Ling would have such a treasure. Boss, what should we do now? The nearby god's face turned pale as well. They knew very well that they wanted to kill the wills of shock and obtain the gray gas. At the same time, the wills of shock also wanted to kill them and obtain the treasures from them. The 2 sides did not have the time to shake hands and make peace. What else can we do? Kill! Yibumo roared angrily. He knew that an earth-shattering battle was unavoidable. Lin Ling, I won't let you off. He looked into the distance and roared again, knowing that he had taken the blame for Lin Ling. That's the only way. The gods could only laugh bitterly and fight with all their strength. However, there were too many wills of shock around them. Layer by layer, their strength was continuously suppressed. Your Excellency, how dare you? Since you dared to wake us up, you must be prepared to die. You can be considered the most idiotic group of gods I've ever seen. That's right, you dared to swagger across the sky and attract our attention. I admire your courage. The wills of shock that filled the sky stared at Yibumo and the others. Sword light flashed and covered the sky. Chapter 4763. On the other side, Lin Ling and the rest were also facing quite a number of wills of astonishment. Run! Let's see where you can run to. We've already stopped your main force. We can deal with the rest of you small fries. The wills of astonishment that stopped Lin Ling, and the rest clearly did not think much of Lin Ling and the rest. After all, Lin Ling's side had a few mid-stage mid-gods, while Night Bumpkin's side had only late-stage mid-gods and even high gods. It was only natural that they would think that Lin Ling's party was just a small fry. Haha! Lin Ling could not help but laugh. White Water Maiden, Twilight Goddess, and the rest were secretly relieved. They did not expect that being weak was also an advantage. Next, they also unleashed their full strength. Under Lin Ling's lead, they killed the wills of astonishment. This way. Then Lin Ling hurriedly led the way and ran toward the Temple of Will. He knew that after killing these wills of astonishment, even more wills of astonishment would come. Moreover, he had a feeling that Night Undead could also escape. After all, Night Undead was stronger than him. If he could kill the King of Will, Night Undead could naturally do the same. Swoosh! Swoosh! Everyone unleashed their full speed and followed Lin Ling. Along the way, they killed a few more waves of wills of astonishment. Finally, a hazy fog began to appear in front of them. This fog was suspended above a cliff, and the other side of the cliff was full of mystery. However, through the vague outline, one could roughly see the shape of a palace. They had arrived at the Temple of Will. Through Guangchengzi's introduction, Lin Ling knew that the Temple of Will was one of the 8 gods' harems. It was a place to store treasures, and the flipping sky seal was inside. Treasures. At the thought of treasures, Lin Ling could not help but lick his lips. Although so much time had passed, and most of the treasures in the palace might have been weathered, the treasures that were left behind must be extremely precious. Perhaps this could allow Lin Ling to open his 8th dantian, or even increase his cultivation level. Where do you think you're going? When Lin Ling and the others approached the cliff, a loud roar finally came from behind them. Behind him, a blood-red light soared into the sky. His aura was unparalleled, and a figure was already flying over at an unparalleled speed. It was Night Demon, and now he seemed to be hysterical and completely crazy, flying over from the sky. It was precisely because of this that he was able to catch up to Lin Ling and the others with such speed. And the reason he lost his mind was because the people he brought had all died in the hands of the Will of Shock. As for him, he had to fight 10 kings of wills in a row before finally opening up a gap and escaping with his life. After escaping, he went straight for Lin Ling without a doubt. He wanted to kill Lin Ling as soon as possible. Not good, Night Demon has caught up. Sensing the powerful aura behind them, the faces of Old Man Chengwang and the others changed drastically. Naturally, they also knew how much Night Demon wanted to kill them after he escaped. Don't worry, we've reached the end. Lin Ling shook his head and came to the edge of the cliff. Then he formed a complicated barrier with both hands and drew it in the sky. These barriers were taught to him by Guangchengzi, who had also taught him how to collect the flipping sky seal. Rumble. After the barrier was opened, the dense fog around them dispersed, revealing a winding path. This winding path was made of unknown rocks and was only a meter wide. It connected to the other side of the cliff. Follow me. Without further ado, Lin Ling walked onto the winding path. Everyone was shocked. When did this winding path appear on the cliff? They couldn't care less and hurriedly followed Lin Ling. Walking on the winding path, the entire path was shaking, making everyone feel as if they were going to fall off the cliff at any time. Looking through the winding path, they saw that the bottom was densely packed with human heads, and all of them seemed to be filled with the Will of Shock. Heavens! If a late-stage high god were to fall off the cliff, even a late-stage high god would perish here. Lin Ling, the Will of Shock at the bottom of the cliff won't rush up, right? Old Man Chengwang asked with a bitter smile. Well, I don't think so. Lin Ling shook his head because he really didn't know. However, he didn't think so. After all, if there really was danger, Guangchengzi wouldn't have let him collect the flipping sky seal. Shouldn't. Old Man Chengwang and the others almost fainted. In such a dangerous situation, Lin Ling actually said, should. This meant that even he wasn't sure. This time, the bitter smiles on Old Man Chengwang and the others' faces became even more bitter. But now that things had come to this, they could only follow Lin Ling. Lin Ling, where do you think you're going? Looking behind them, Night Demon had also arrived. When he saw Lin Ling and the others walking on the cliff, he couldn't help but be shocked. However, he secretly mocked Lin Ling and the others for being idiots. Instead of flying, they walked. He wanted to grab them from the sky like a big bird. However, just as he got close to the cliff, the dense fog engulfed him. A terrifying wave made him subconsciously stop and land on the ground. His forehead was now full of cold sweat. For some reason, he had a feeling that if he flew across the sky, the dense fog would take his life and turn him into dust. No wonder Lin Ling and the others didn't dare to fly over the cliff but walked. At this moment, the anger in Night Demon's heart burned again. Previously, he had mocked Lin Ling and the others for being idiots. Now it seemed that he was the idiot. So what if we walk? Where do you think we're going? Night Demon looked behind him and saw a large number of wills of shock chasing after them. This made him know that he had to immediately kill Lin Ling and the others and leave this place. He wanted to follow Lin Ling and the others and step onto the winding path. However, just as his feet touched the winding path, the rock under his feet disappeared as if it was an illusion. Night Demon almost lost his balance and fell off the cliff. During this process he finally saw that under the pitch-black cliff, there was a large number of wills of shock. There were even more wills of shock than those that had surrounded him before. Chi-Chi. Night Demon sucked in a breath of cold air and his forehead was full of cold sweat. Fortunately, he had stopped at the critical moment, otherwise he would have fallen off the cliff. Lin Ling, you. Then Night Demon looked at Lin Ling and the others who were walking on the cliff and was so angry that his whole body trembled. Now he couldn't fly or walk. This meant that he could only watch Lin Ling and the others leave. This also meant that he had chased after them for nothing. Previously, he had used all his strength and didn't hesitate to attract more wills of shock. He flew from the sky in order to catch Lin Ling and torture him to death. However, Lin Ling had slipped away right under his nose. What welcomed him was only endless wills of shock. Lin Ling, even if I have to go to heaven or hell, I will definitely kill you in this life. Night Demon was at the edge of the cliff and roared into the sky. Ever since he had become a superior deity, this was the first time he had suffered such humiliation. Chapter 4764. Sir, let's see how you're going to escape. While Yi Bumo was going crazy, a large number of shock wills finally caught up from behind. Clang! Swords were pointed at Yi Bumo from afar. Among them, there were many kings of will. Yi Bumo's strength was crazily suppressed, and his face was pale. Did he have to clean up Lin Ling's mess again? Are you stupid? It's that kid, it's that kid. Yi Bumo pointed at Lin Ling and the others in the distance. The kings of will also stared at Lin Ling and the others who were walking on the cliff. One of the kings of will said, "We already know that the god who first awakened us was that young man. We must kill him because he dared to play tricks on us. This is a provocation to all of our will of shock. Will. However, killing him is our business. Now you better take care of yourself." Hearing this, Yi Bumo suddenly gritted his teeth and said, "Then why don't you kill him now? When are you going to wait?" "Idiot, that's the temple of will. No one can step in, not even us." The king of will said coldly. IIF*CK. Yi Bumo was stunned for a moment, then cursed again. Today he had cursed twice in a row. Let's fight. Of course, Yi Bumo also knew that life and death were at this moment, so he no longer hid his methods. He burned his life force and used all his strength to resist the shock wills in an attempt to break out of the encirclement and escape. Rumble. At the edge of the cliff, an earth-shattering battle broke out. At this moment, under the cliff, countless shock wills raised their heads, and their emotionless eyes flickered with a strange light. Then they began to talk faintly. At the top of their heads, Lin Ling and the others were still carefully moving forward, but their foreheads were already covered in cold sweat. Below their feet were all shock wills, and they seemed to have awakened. If they wanted to attack them, they were on the cliff and would have no power to fight back. In fact, even Lin Ling's forehead was covered in cold sweat. As long as it did not exceed 100, Lin Ling was not afraid of one shocking will, or even 10. But there were more than 100 shock wills below the cliff. But what he found inconceivable was that they continued moving forward, and the shock wills below the cliff ignored them. Lin Ling did not know that the shock wills below the cliff could not see Lin and the others. They could not even detect their auras. All of this was because of that narrow and winding path. After a long while, Lin Ling and the rest finally reached the other side of the cliff. Then they all looked back. On the opposite cliff, an earth-shattering battle was taking place. That power pierced through the heavens and earth, destroying everything in its path. Yi Bumo is indeed strong. Lin Ling's eyes was to be to the end's wills. At this point in the battle, Yi Bumo still hadn't died. Moreover, if this continued, Yi Bumo would probably be able to escape again. Compared to King Songdi and the others, Yi Bumo's strength was undoubtedly more than double. If Lin Ling hadn't walked towards the Temple of Will and met the Whitewater Pure Maiden, he wouldn't have been able to escape Night Bumo's clutches. Let's go into the Will's temple. After watching for a long time, Lin Ling said to the others. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. They could finally relax after arriving at the Will's temple. Perhaps this was the only safe place on the 8th level. The 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace seemed simple, but the hidden danger was the most obvious. There were countless experts here. Everyone followed Lin Ling. Then they saw that the Will's temple was magnificent, but it was also silent. It was as if it had been here for thousands of years. The Will's temple had a door covered in dust. Lin Ling stood in front of the door quietly. He formed a barrier with both hands. Then a cloud of dust covered the door, and the door slowly opened. To everyone's surprise, it was bright inside the door. There were god stones hanging all around, illuminating the Will's temple. The floor of the hall was filled with treasures. There were chaos treasures and all kinds of divine weapons. In addition, there were rare divine herbs and flowers planted on the ground. They took root and sprouted, filling the air with endless spiritual chi. All of them are treasures? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. No one expected that there would be such treasures in the Will's temple. That is the divine pesticide grass. It is said that the divine pesticide grass was touched by the divine farmer ruler in ancient times, and it grew from there. Bai Jinting's turtle wave turned into a turtle after 3 million years. It traveled through the universe, turned into a wave after 3 million years, and remained dormant. Heavens, this is a legendary treasure. Who is the owner of this Will's temple? Why are all kinds of treasures from ancient times here? Cries of surprise rang out one after another. Not only Sunrise Elder, but even the gods following White Water Goddess and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. 8 gods. Lin Ling smiled faintly. Guangchengzi had given him a good opportunity. Well, Lin Ling, can we take these treasures? The goddess of dawn had found a treasure suitable for her. She couldn't help but ask, we don't need much. 10% of the treasures will be enough. 10%. This was also a number that could not be underestimated. Putting everything else aside, just one of the treasures here was enough to exchange for tens of thousands of Dao realm fragments. You guys can take 30%. Lin Ling pondered for a moment, then smiled and said. Although he was not familiar with these people, Lin Ling had always been generous to his friends. Since they had gone through thick and thin together, he would give them a share. Wow, you are too generous. How about my daughter, the goddess of dawn? Do you want her? Sunrise Elder was stunned. He was so excited that he spoke incoherently. He wanted to introduce his daughter to Lin Ling. Father. The goddess of dawn blushed and hurriedly scolded. Ha ha ha, how many daughters do you have? I will take them all. Lin Ling was in a good mood and joked. It was just a casual sentence, but it made the goddess of dawn's heart beat wildly. She had followed Lin Ling to this palace and witnessed Lin Ling's various miracles. She had long worshipped Lin Ling. In addition, Lin Ling's character was good, which made her even more attracted to Lin Ling. After joking, Lin Ling asked White Water Goddess to gather the treasures for Lei Gong and the others. Then he walked up to the second floor. There were many rooms on the second floor. According to Guangchengzi's introduction, treasures that could be placed in a room were the real treasures. As for the flipping sky seal, it was lying in one of the rooms on the second floor. Chapter 4765. Stepping onto the second floor, Lin Ling looked around and realized that the floor was mottled and covered in dust. No one had been here for many years. Beside the corridor on the second floor, more than a dozen secret rooms appeared. They were all sealed with iron doors, and iron locks were hanging on the rusty iron doors. Secret rooms? Lin Ling's eyes lit up. He knew very well that the flipping sky seal was in one of the secret rooms. The treasures in the secret rooms that could be in the same room as the flipping sky seal were probably extremely extraordinary. Licking his lips, Lin Ling hurried to the first secret room. However, when he dared to approach it, the iron lock shot out a bolt of divine lightning that penetrated Lin Ling's body. Not only did Lin Ling's body tremble, but even his soul was trembling. What a powerful divine lightning! Lin Ling gasped. He couldn't get close to this secret room at all. Looking through the gap in the secret room, Lin Ling could see a man hanging in the middle of the room. The man's limbs were tied up in chains, and his stomach had been cut off by a knife. However, there was a large number of lightning snakes lingering around the cut. It was terrifying. Was this man a human, a god, or a treasure? Lin Ling quietly retreated and didn't dare to approach the secret room again. He had a feeling that he couldn't get the treasures in the secret room at all. Then Lin Ling walked to the second secret room. Before he got close, an icy chill hit him in the face, causing frost to appear on Lin Ling's body. Looking at the iron door again, it was now full of water beads. It was as if an ice universe was sealed inside. I can't get close to this secret room. Lin Ling shook his head and left with a frown. He sighed in his heart. He had returned empty-handed from 2 secret rooms in a row. Even if there were great treasures, he could see them but couldn't touch them. It was really depressing. The third secret room looked very ordinary. However, when Lin Ling looked through the gap, he immediately felt that the world was suppressing him. It was as if several eras had come. At this moment it was difficult to breathe. It was so difficult that Lin Ling couldn't even move an inch. He could neither advance nor retreat. However, Lin Ling looked through the gap in the door and vaguely saw a square imperial jade seal hanging in the middle of the secret chamber, exuding a breathtaking pressure. Flipping sky seal. With just a glance, Lin Ling was overjoyed. He hurriedly unleashed a barrier and continuously slapped it on the iron door. With each slap, the suppressive feeling of heaven and earth quietly weakened and gradually became undetectable. This was the method that Guangqingzi had taught him. It was the method to collect the flipping sky seal. Fortunately, Guangqingzi told me the method. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get close to the iron gate. My life would have been in danger. Lin Ling said in shock. This heaven-flipping seal was even more terrifying than the previous chamber. Once he got close, he wouldn't be able to escape. Undo it. After continuously creating barriers, Lin Ling's palm suddenly slammed on the iron door. With a kacha sound, the iron lock fell and the iron door slowly opened. Rumble. An ancient aura gushed out. It was so ancient that Lin Ling felt as if he had heard the song of the gods. Lin Ling took a deep breath and pushed the door open. He saw that the secret chamber was like a world of its own. The flipping sky seal was suspended in midair, constantly circling and emitting a jade-like light. This flipping sky seal was like an imperial jade seal. It was square in shape, and every side was carved with dragon and tiger statues. It was very domineering. Moreover, as if it had sensed Lin Ling's arrival, this powerful chaotic divine artifact suddenly came to suppress Lin Ling, wanting to kill him. Keep it. Lin Ling seemed to have transformed into Guangqingzi. His left hand kept creating barriers, and his right hand suddenly pointed to the sky. With this point, the huge flipping sky seal began to shrink and gradually became the size of a palm. Then it floated in Lin Ling's palm. To Lin Ling's surprise, the flipping sky seal wasn't heavy. Instead, it was extremely light. Flipping world technique. After looking carefully for a while, Lin Ling created barriers again. Then he spat out a mouthful of divine origin at the flipping sky seal. After this divine origin landed on the flipping sky seal, the whole flipping sky seal floated and circled continuously, as if it was going to suppress the heavens and the earth. This was also the most basic way to control the flipping sky seal. Of course, this was also taught by Guangqingzi. Although it was only a basic way to control it, Lin Ling sensed the terrifying power hidden in it. It would be easy to kill a high-level deity. With this flipping sky seal, Lin Ling no longer had to worry about the trip to the 8 gods' heavenly palace. However, to control the flipping sky seal, it spits out a lot of divine origin. Although it was only a mouthful of divine origin, it was 30% of the power in one of Lin Ling's dantians. After all, although the flipping sky seal didn't look big, it was a universe of its own. The power it required was definitely not small. Keep. After the basic way to control it, Lin Ling put away the flipping sky seal. After looking at the secret chamber, he turned and left. Lin Ling wasn't surprised that he had to collect the flipping sky seal. However, he didn't intend to stop there. He wanted to see if he could get any opportunities in the remaining secret chambers. Before he even got close to the 4th secret chamber, a fierce sword essence surged over, as if it was going to cut the heavens and the earth and split the universe. At this moment, Even Lin Ling's tyrannical song sword was dormant. It was as if it had met the Emperor of Divine Swords. The protection of this secret chamber is probably only slightly weaker than the flipping sky seal. It's a pity that it's not something I can collect. Lin Ling sighed and walked to the next secret chamber. However, this secret chamber was also extraordinary. As soon as he got close, the Buddhist mantra rushed into his heart as if to suppress Lin Ling's soul. Damn it, none of the treasures are easy to get. Lin Ling couldn't help but curse. He could see it but couldn't get it. This feeling was extremely torturous. Next, Lin Ling kept checking the secret chambers. Unfortunately, he still couldn't get close to the last secret chamber. Just as Lin Ling was about to give up, they arrived at the last secret room. This secret room was even more terrifying. As they approached, a terrifying murderous aura surged toward them. It was as if the murderous aura was about to swallow them whole. Murderous aura. Lin Ling's eyes narrowed. However, at this moment, the tyrannical song sword behind him became restless. The murderous aura seemed to have awakened the tyrannical song sword. Lin Ling tentatively took a step forward and found that although the murderous aura was terrifying, it couldn't affect him. This also allowed Lin Ling to get closer to the iron door. When he arrived in front of the iron door, the iron lock on the iron door fell, and the door slowly opened. A substantial murderous aura rushed over, corroding the ground and leaving thousands of holes. It was very terrifying. Amidst the murderous aura, the grim demons held their blades and slashed at Lin Ling. However, at this moment, the tyrannical song sword floated out and a sea of blood surged out, enveloping Lin Ling. It actually left Lin Ling safe and sound. Steps of killing. Lin Ling shouted and suddenly held the tyrannical song sword in the sea of blood. He slashed out fiercely. Under this, all the grim demons were cut in half and turned into ashes. Chapter 4766. What's going on? Everyone lifted their heads, their expressions extremely solemn. They had a feeling that the second floor had awakened the universe of slaughter, capable of killing countless gods. At this moment, Lin Ling, who had stepped into the secret chamber, scanned his surroundings. This was no longer the secret chamber. Countless demons floated in the sky, their eyes filled with murderous intent as they stared at Lin Ling kill. The demons' murderous intent surged as they immediately pounced on Lin Ling, intending to kill Lin Ling. What kind of treasure is hidden in this secret chamber? Lin Ling frowned as he looked around. However, he could only see countless demons charging at him. There were no treasures at all. The demons' goal was to kill Lin Ling, so Lin Ling couldn't care less. He raised the tyrant song and slashed horizontally. Rumble! The ferocious sea of blood surged and swept towards the demons. Those demons couldn't withstand Lin Ling's slash and were sliced in half. Splash! A large number of corpses were sucked into the sea of blood. As the sea of blood churned, it was extremely terrifying. Lin Ling took a step forward. Just as he was about to move forward, more demons appeared in front of him and charged at Lin Ling. Although I don't know what you are, since you want to kill me, Lin Ling, then pay with your lives. Lin Ling growled as murderous intent surged in his eyes. The steps of slaughter and his will that were hidden in his body burst out majestically at this moment. One slash to kill millions of demons. One slash to kill millions of demons. However, after the demons, the gods came out of the mountains. Kill! They all pounced on Lin Ling, wanting to kill him as soon as possible. There's no end to this. Kill! This time Lin Ling took the initiative to charge forward. Blood light surged as he slashed continuously. One slash to kill millions of gods. However, this was not the end. After the 10 million gods, countless demons and devils appeared and joined forces with the gods to kill Lin Ling. How could a mere chamber hide so many demons and gods? This made Lin Ling suspect that everything was just an illusion. However, every time the sword slashed out, the killing intent was so real, so real. It was as if these demons and gods were real. Impossible. What is hidden here? The more Lin Ling killed, the more shocked he became. He had already lost count of how many people he had killed. He had even killed to the point that his hands were getting soft. However, the number of enemies in front of them did not decrease at all. When ordinary people reached this stage of killing, their eyes would have already turned red from the killing. Unfortunately, Lin Ling did not. His mind was still clear and he knew why he had killed him. The main reason was that Lin Ling had killed countless people in his life. He was no longer crazy about killing. In addition, he had the Tyrant Song Sword with him. He knew why to kill, and he would not fall into the killing path. He was obsessed with the killing path. And this killing seemed to have lasted for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. Lin Ling's body was already dyed red with blood. The sea of blood behind him was filled with corpses. It was no longer a sea of blood, but a sea of corpses. Because he had killed too many, the sea of blood could no longer contain any more corpses. Kill. However, this was not the end. This time, countless demons and divine beasts moved out. These demons and divine beasts merged into the gods and demons. They killed decisively, and their killing intent was monstrous. After the demons and divine beasts, countless mortals raised their heads and looked at Lin Ling. Then they charged over like locusts. The mortals were also moving out. This killing was enough to destroy the universe. Although I don't know what happened, I can only kill now. Lin Ling roared at the sky. He gripped the Tyrant Song Sword tightly and charged over crazily. One sword, 1 billion lives. One sword, 10 billion lives. In the end, Lin Ling was already exhausted from killing. However, when he raised his head, the distance was still filled with people. There were probably no less than 100 billion lives. All of them wanted to kill Lin Ling. Flipping Sky Seal. Lin Ling roared and activated the Flipping Sky Seal to suppress them. This was also the first time he used the Flipping Sky Seal to attack an enemy. The Flipping Sky Seal specialized in smashing people's heads. Even a superior god would not be able to withstand it. Any god's power and steps were useless. They could not withstand the suppression of the Flipping Sky Seal. Boom! This smash shook heaven and earth. Countless lives were turned into meat patties. The path ahead was clear for the first time. Of course, during this process, many lives were born again and charged at Lin Ling. Of course, Lin Ling also saw a flaw. It turned out that if he wanted to move forward, he had to kill the lives before they were born. As long as he was faster than the speed of the lives being born, he would be able to see the end of this secret chamber. Using the Tyrant Song Sword to kill is a little slow. I might as well use the Flipping Sky Seal. However, the Flipping Sky Seal consumes too much divine essence. If I can't kill all the lives before my divine essence is exhausted, I might die here. Lin Ling was deep in thought. His eyes were burning. The Tyrant Song Sword allowed him to enter the secret chamber. However, if he wanted to find the treasure in the secret chamber, he could only rely on the Flipping Sky Seal. Kill. Without further ado, Lin Ling activated his divine essence and poured it into the Flipping Sky Seal to suppress the enemies. Swoosh. Endless blood and flesh spewed out. The lives were all crushed into meat patties by the Flipping Sky Seal. The path ahead was cleared again. Of course, during this process, countless lives were born again. The speed was also extremely fast. Kill. Lin Ling knew that there was no time to lose. When a part of the lives were born, the Flipping Sky Seal suppressed them again. Just like that, Lin Ling killed as he moved forward. He was getting closer to the end of the secret chamber. Lin Ling had 7 dantians and could provide an endless supply of divine essence. If it were anyone else, they would have collapsed long ago. Of course, Lin Ling's current situation was not good. When he had 7 dantians, he could only hold on for a longer time. The recovery of divine essence could not keep up with the speed of consumption. Time passed quietly just like that. When Lin Ling himself did not know how many people he had killed, his divine essence was finally exhausted. This also made Lin Ling smile bitterly. He did not expect that the day he killed the most people in his life would actually be this day. However, the countless lives that had just been born in front of him froze at this moment. Among these lives, a light quietly flashed and became brighter and brighter, forming an extremely mysterious force. This force seemed to be the Tao of killing, but it also seemed to be the Tao of sacrifice. After it appeared, all the lives seemed to disappear. A cloud mother quietly floated in the sky, giving people a very peaceful feeling. Eternal Killer Mother. This was one of the most ancient treasures in the ancient era. It was born when heaven and earth were split apart. After several eras and countless universes, every time a life fell, it would absorb a bit of killing intent. After countless years, it finally grew into a cloud mother. In fact, this was also the most primitive killing intent that had undergone countless transformations. Chapter 4767. Moreover, after Lin Ling's killing, the ancient Cloud Mother did not do anything to Lin Ling. It was as if Lin Ling was one of its kind. This also allowed Lin Ling to easily hold the treasure in his hand. Almost at the same time, the tyrannical singing sword suddenly floated out and collided with the ancient Cloud Mother. Finally, it disappeared into the ancient Cloud Mother. What's going on? The tyrannical singing sword disappeared? Lin Ling frowned. He had no idea what was going on. He stretched out his hand and held the ancient Killer Mother in his hand. He looked carefully and found that the ancient Killer Mother had the aura of the tyrannical singing sword. Until now, he did not know whether the ancient Killer Mother had become the tyrannical singing sword, or the tyrannical singing sword had become the ancient Killer Mother. Shaking his head, Lin Ling sat down cross-legged and recovered the divine origin that he had consumed earlier. After a long time, Lin Ling checked the ancient Killer Mother and found that there were no special changes. It seemed that it was still devouring the tyrannical singing sword. Lin Ling sighed softly and left the secret room. Then, he looked at the other secret rooms and shook his head helplessly. Although there were countless treasures in the other secret rooms, it was obvious that Lin Ling could not obtain them. Walking down to the second floor, Lin Ling found that the treasures in the hall had been plundered. Some of them were cultivating, some were counting the treasures, and all of them looked very happy. Lin Ling. Seeing Lin Ling walk down, everyone looked up with smiles on their faces. It seems that everyone has a good harvest. Lin Ling nodded and immediately smiled. White Water Goddess walked over and handed a brocade pouch to Lin Ling and said, "Everyone took 10% of the treasures. The remaining 90% is inside." Although they only took 10%, it was a great harvest, so everyone was naturally happy. Lin Ling took the brocade pouch. After carefully inspecting it, he could not help but be shocked, because the number of treasures within the pouch had exceeded his imagination. It seemed like the treasures he'd seen earlier were merely the tip of the iceberg, and there were still treasures hidden within the hall on the first floor that even he didn't know about. But now he had enough treasures. In addition to the rewards from Master Guangcheng, Lin Ling was confident that he could open his 8th dantian and completely slaughter his way into the Tao Pagoda. Moreover, he could now greatly increase his strength and step into the late stage of the mid-level deity stage. Previously, he had killed decisively in the secret chamber because he was constantly familiarizing himself with the flipping sky seal. He knew that if he wanted to control this heaven-defying treasure, his divine essence was indispensable. Therefore, if he advanced to a higher realm, he could control the flipping sky seal for a longer period of time. Furthermore, the heaven-flipping seal only consumed his divine essence. Lin Ling's corporeal body and soul force were both present. His strongest trump card, the universe's 3 extremes destruction, and the Pangu strike could still be used. This meant that as long as Lin Ling could break through, the 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace would most likely be invincible. After that, Lin Ling instructed everyone. He immediately sat down cross-legged, took out a large number of treasures, and refined them on the spot. Treasures flew out one after another, emitting colorful mist. They were magnificent, and rich spiritual qi covered the entire hall on the first floor. These treasures were left behind from ancient times. To be able to survive until now, how could the spiritual qi they contained be weak? After all, many of the divine grasses here were not dead objects, but were planted on the first floor. Lord Lin Ling is finally going to break through. Whitewater Pure Maiden looked at Lin Ling sitting cross-legged, and her heart was inexplicably excited. Lin Ling was still a mid-stage mid-level deity, but he could already fight against a high-level deity. If he reached the late stage of the mid-level deity stage, what kind of limit would his strength reach? Wow, Lin Ling's breakthrough seems different from others. I saw him continuously consume hundreds of divine grasses, and those are Shinong grass. They are incomparably precious. Generally speaking, 50 of them are enough to break through. Not only that, he has already consumed 200 of them. Is this guy's stomach a bottomless pit? No wonder his strength is so strong. Even the treasures he needs to break through are 10 times more than others. Old man Chengwang and the rest stared at Lin Ling. They originally wanted to see how much his strength would increase after Linling broke through. But this breakthrough was something they had been waiting for a long time. Moreover, they had seen Linling consume countless treasures. This made them even more curious about Linling. Time passed quietly like this. Finally, at a certain moment, a powerful aura erupted, as though a god had arrived. This aura was so strong that it did not seem like the aura of a late-stage mid-level deity, but more like the strength of a high-level deity. And this was the benefit of cultivating 7 danshans at the same time. Once a breakthrough was made, one's strength would increase exponentially. Lord Linling, you broke through. After Linling's aura gradually subsided, Pure Lady White excitedly walked up to him. At this moment, Linling's eyes were slightly closed as he sensed the changes brought about by his strength. After a while, he finally opened his eyes. There was a smile in his eyes, and there was a strong sense of confidence. The breakthrough this time was a matter of course. Moreover, because he cultivated 7 danshans at the same time, all of his domains had been greatly improved. If I let my doppelganger return, I'm afraid that the realm I just broke through will immediately stabilize. Linling thought to himself. Then he looked at Pure Lady White and said, I've finally broken through. Now we can leave this Temple of Will and find Giant Ghost and the rest. We can leave now? That's great. Yi Bumo is probably still alive. He probably wants to kill us as soon as possible, but now that Linling has broken through, there's no need to fear him. Let's go, let's leave this place. Everyone was incomparably happy. Under Linling's lead, they finally left the Temple of Will. Outside the Will Divine Palace, everything had returned to normal. Dense fog covered the entire sky above the cliff, and on the other side of the cliff it was completely silent. The terrifying battle of wills from the last time had disappeared, as if it had never happened. Yi Bumo is probably still alive, but if he meets me again, I'll kill him. Looking at the other side of the cliff, Linling laughed coldly. Then he formed a boundary with both hands, forming a winding path that led to the other side of the cliff. Everyone climbed up the winding path one after another. After a long time, they reached the other side of the cliff. When they looked back at the Temple of Will, they all felt as if they had survived a disaster. Pure Lady White, have you found Giant Ghost? At this moment, Linling looked at Pure Lady White and asked, I have, but they're still far away from us. It could even be said that they haven't taken a single step forward. They've been trapped in a certain place. I think they're in trouble. As for Emperor Ga Zhonggang, he's been looking for us. Now he's in the vicinity. Pure Lady White looked at the voice transmission Jade Talisman and continued to speak. Okay. Then let's find Emperor Ga Zhonggang first. Then we'll go find Giant Ghost together. Linling decided. Emperor Ga Zhonggang was in the vicinity anyway. It wouldn't take much time. Linling will go with you. Old Man Changguang and the others said without hesitation. They had benefited a lot from following Linling throughout the entire process. They had done nothing. Instead, Linling had saved them several times. Now they naturally wanted to repay Linling. Chapter 4768. At this moment, the eastern part of the 8th floor was where most of the gods had gathered. This was because there was a gigantic temple here. It was majestic with 18 ancient stone pillars erected. Each pillar was incomparably large. Although many of them had cracks, it didn't stop people from staring inside the temple. The temple was hundreds of meters wide, and several stone tablets could be seen inside. Stone tablets. This was also the reason why the deities' gazes were burning, and their emotions were stirred up. Those stone tablets might have records of the world will hosts, and that was why they were here. All the gods in the Chaos Realm wanted to know who the 8th world will host was. This was because most of the gods had experienced reincarnation and were once killed by the world will. Thus, they were very curious as to who the next host body of the world will would be. It was said that the later the host body of the world will appeared, the greater its potential, and it could change an era. Moreover, if they knew who the world will host was, they would receive endless rewards. Finally found it. But there's a 5-colored light screen outside the temple, preventing us from entering. Perhaps only a high god has the power to open it. The will of shock hasn't appeared yet. We have to get the tablet and leave. I heard that the poison ants have appeared. Damn it, the longer we wait, the more troublesome it will be. But a minor god went in before, so strange. The gods in the surroundings were discussing spiritedly. Several figures were standing in front of the temple. It was Namwufengyu and Saint Yi. At this moment, their faces were filled with anxiety. This was because more and more gods were gathering around them. If they waited for the high gods to show up, things would become troublesome. But what made them helpless was that the giant ghost had already entered the temple. They knew about the giant ghost's origin. It was the other side of the 8 gods, so it was normal for it to be able to enter the temple. But couldn't it come out sooner? I'm coming out. At this moment, a figure flickered out of the 5-colored light curtain behind them and slowly arrived in front of Saint Yi and the others. A terrifying aura silently spread out. The giant ghost seemed to have turned into a stone statue, and its skin became incomparably gray. The giant ghost had a fiendish appearance to begin with, like a yaksha. Now that it had turned into a stone statue, it gave people the feeling that it was an evil ghost. What a powerful aura! Could it be that the giant ghost has reached the level of a high god? Shangyi's eyes widened in disbelief. Before entering the divine temple, the giant ghost only had the strength of an early-stage mid-god. Now that he had come out, his strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Saint Yi had been to the primal chaos realm before, but this was the first time he had seen a god with such a huge increase in strength. Even Lin Ling did not have this kind of progress. Giant ghost, you... Treasure god Nanwufengyu also looked at the giant ghost in shock. The giant ghost nodded, and the terrifying aura around its body disappeared. It returned to its original appearance, no longer like a rock. We can't leave. We have to stop anyone from entering the temple. The giant ghost looked at the gods around it and said, "What?" Shangyi and treasure god Namwufengyu were dumbfounded. They also saw that the surrounding gods wanted nothing more than to enter the temple. Moreover, they had also come for the stone tablet recorded by the will of the world. How could they be stopped from entering? Moreover, this was too domineering. Why? Shangyi frowned. Treasure god Namwufengyu thought for a moment, then suddenly said, "Giant ghost, do you know who the host of the 8th will of the world is?" The giant ghost's eyes continued to flicker, as if it felt that this matter was of great importance, but it still nodded in the end. "I already know. That's why I have to stop them." "I see. But with just the 3 of us, I'm afraid it will be very difficult." Shangyi was confused, but he trusted the giant ghost, so he decided to help. Although the temple is empty, the only way to enter is through this path in front of us. Moreover, I can sense that the will of shock is on its way. Most importantly, the poison ant is also coming. This means that we only need to hold on for a while, and then this place will become a forbidden area. Once it gets closer, these gods will have to leave," said the giant ghost. "Although I don't know why you have to stop them, we are all from Lei Gong's palace. We will definitely support your decision. I'm afraid it will be a tough battle, but Lord Linling is also on his way. Perhaps everything will turn for the better." Shangyi and treasure god Namwufengyu both said, "Lord Linling?" The giant ghost's eyes suddenly looked into the distance, a strange emotion flickering in them. However, he was even more determined to defend the temple. "Hey, you're the first to enter the temple. What's on the stone tablet inside? Also, who is the host of the 8th will of the world?" At this moment, all the gods were looking at the giant ghost's group, and one of them asked coldly. They hadn't realized that the giant ghost had already reached the strength of a high god. They were just curious that a minor god could enter the temple. This was too strange, but it was also good. If they could find out what was on the stone tablet from this minor god, they wouldn't have to waste time here. After all, they knew that the longer they stayed here, the more dangerous it would be. It's them. However, not all the gods dared to underestimate the giant ghost's group. Some came from the primal chaos realm and had seen Linling kill a high god. They knew that these minor gods weren't weak. "I didn't see them," the giant ghost immediately said. Treasure god Namwufengyu sighed. What they needed to do now was stall for time, so they had to find some excuses to deal with this matter. They had to stall for as long as possible. But who knew that the giant ghost wasn't cunning enough and actually said that he didn't see them? Everyone had seen him enter the temple, but he said that he didn't know. Wasn't this provoking the gods? Alright, do you think we're blind? If you don't say it, then don't blame me for being impolite. As expected, the gods were furious. Although the gods who knew about Lin Ling were somewhat apprehensive, they were already very close to their goal, so they decided to attack the giant ghosts group. Most importantly, although Lin Ling was terrifying, the giant ghosts group was nothing to worry about. I don't know how powerful your impoliteness is, so I'll have to trouble you to explain. The giant ghost said coldly. After becoming a high god, he had an innate disdain for mid-gods. Of course, his words had also caused the situation to reach a climax. A great battle was about to break out. Shangyi and treasure god Nanwu Fingyu looked at each other and sighed. The giant ghost's personality was like this. He had a fiery temper and an evil spirit. He didn't know how to beat around the bush. Chapter 4769. Grandpa Treasure God, I'll have to trouble you. Shangyi immediately said to treasure god Nanwu Fengyu, stopping the giant ghost from attacking. If the giant ghost attacked, the other gods would attack as well. After all, their goal was to stall for time. Alright. Treasure god Nanwu Fengyu floated out, unleashing the power of wind and rain. He was an early-stage mid-god, but his realm was stable. His divine energy was also extremely powerful. For a moment it was hard to tell who would win. Treasure god Nanwu Fengyu could be proud that his opponent was a late-stage mid-god. Something's not right. These people aren't that weak. Why would they let such a weak old man fight? The gods from the primal chaos realm frowned. They had seen Shangyi's strength and knew that he was the most terrifying. Who knows how long it'll take for two weak gods to fight? Let's do it. They spoke one after another. Without hesitation, gods flew out from their side and grabbed treasure god Nanwu Fengyu. In their eyes, it wasn't a bad idea to take treasure god Nanwu Fengyu hostage. After all, they didn't want to stay here for too long. It's my turn. Shangyi cursed inwardly. He didn't expect the delay to be so short. Then he activated the Donghuang bell and attacked the gods that pounced at him. As soon as the Donghuang bell appeared, the sky changed color. The gods from the Dao Tower finally knew how powerful Shangyi was. The Donghuang Tai clan. Heavens, a great treasure, a great treasure. It's the most powerful chaos divine artifact. Such a treasure is in the hands of a mid-god. Damn it. Not only were the gods shocked, but they also licked their lips. They wanted nothing more than to take the treasure for themselves. Of course, they also knew that such a great treasure was difficult to control without bloodline power. Although they were envious, they didn't dare to act rashly. For a junior like you to control the Donghuang bell, you're an embarrassment to the era god. An old man floated up and activated his divine bell to clash with the Donghuang bell. You overestimate yourself. Shangyi sneered. He pointed two fingers at the sky and controlled the Donghuang bell to clash with the divine bell. Dong! A deafening sound was heard. Under the impact of the Donghuang bell, the old man's divine bell immediately shattered, and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. As a late-stage mid-god, he was confident that he could defeat Shangyi. But after clashing with Shangyi, he realized that the Donghuang bell was the most powerful chaos divine artifact. Only the gods from the primal chaos realm knew that late-stage mid-gods were no match for Saint Yi, unless they used numbers to overwhelm him. Everyone, let's work together. After all, the longer we stay here, the more danger we'll be in. If the poison diagram ants come, I'm afraid none of us will be able to escape. A skinny god shouted, "Kill!" After exchanging glances, the deities attacked again. Treasure god Grandpa. Seeing that everyone was working together, Shangyi immediately shouted and summoned Nanwu Fengyu back. He then activated the Eastern Emperor Bell and it descended from the sky, enveloping the three of them. The current Shangyi was no longer the same as before. Ever since his defeat in the valley, his strength had greatly increased. Although Han Shuo wasn't 100% sure that he could win against late-stage mid-gods, he could still defend against their attacks for a short period of time. Rumble! The Donghuang bell smashed down. It was as huge as a mountain, and its entire body was like crystal. All the attacks that landed on the bell actually bounced back. On top of the Donghuang bell, a door slowly opened. It was the door to the heavenly realm, and all the attacks were sucked into the door. Damn it! The deities were stunned, and they cursed angrily. The 10 great chaos divine artifacts were too powerful. One must know that if this bell was in the hands of a high god, they would be invincible among the high gods. Everyone give it your all. The deities didn't believe it, and all of them unleashed their divine energy to attack the Donghuang bell. This attracted the attention of countless wills of shock. But now that things had come to this, the deities couldn't care less. These deities from the 9 prefectures void are truly terrifying. First, there was Lin Ling who killed a high god. And now there's the Donghuang bell, invincible among late-stage mid-gods. Tiske, where did they come from? The deities from the primal chaos realm exclaimed in shock. Donghuang bell. But at this moment, a white divine armor warship glided over the ground. It looked huge, but it was extremely agile. It was like a fish among a million mountains, and finally it crashed into the Donghuang bell. Crack! Crack! Cracks appeared on the Donghuang bell, and Saint Guy and the others inside the bell were shocked. A huge divine ship appeared in front of them. There was an ancient sail on it, and the word Chongyuan was embroidered on it. This was Governor Chongyuan, an expert from the Dao Tower. He was also one of the high gods. I didn't expect that in this trip to the 8 gods celestial palace, apart from the high gods, the rest of you would be so strong. On the divine armor warship, Governor Chongyuan was wearing battle armor and holding a huge sword. He looked majestic, and around him the void cracked and turned into solid cracks. It was a terrifying sight. Then he suddenly leaped up, controlled the huge divine ship, and crashed into the Donghuang bell again. This divine ship was a 9th grade chaos divine artifact. It had accompanied Governor Chongyuan for many years, and it was extremely famous in the Dao Tower. Not good. Saint Guy was still weak against a high god. Let me do it, the giant ghost said to Saint Guy. Saint Guy nodded, raised the Donghuang bell, and let the giant ghost fight. The giant ghost walked out step by step. He didn't seem to be walking fast, but he was like an evil spirit descending. All the gods who stared at him were frightened, and they felt a sense of fear. As the giant ghost walked, his body quietly turned into a rock, becoming incomparably hard. He punched out with all his might. Rumble! The gigantic white-armored divine ship was forged from rare treasures, and was protected by a large number of enchantments. However, under the giant ghost's fist, the white divine ship cracked and then exploded. One punch to destroy the ship. At this moment, all the gods sucked in a breath of cold air. A high god! Governor Chongyuan's pupils constricted. Before entering the 8 gods celestial palace, he had only seen a few high gods, and he had never seen such an evil spirit. Could it be that this rock-like yaksha had broken through after entering the 8 gods celestial palace? One must know that breaking through to become a high god was a matter of great importance, and it also depended on luck. After so many years, only 1 out of 10 million gods had a chance of recovering such strength. But this yaksha in front of them had become a high god in the blink of an eye. It was unbelievable. I'll fight you. Governor Chongyuan gripped his huge sword, disappeared, and reappeared above the giant ghost's head, and slashed down. Divine light shot out, as if splitting the universe. Humph! Chapter 4770. Rumble. The fist and the broadsword collided, and a terrifying storm surged out. All the gods were blown off their feet. The collision of the power of gods between higher gods was too terrifying. Bang! 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 Governor Chong and the giant ghost were soon entangled again. They fought from the sky to the ground, and from the ground to the sky. The nearby mountains were all destroyed by them. Some of the wills of shock that came from afar were also affected by the power, and were forcibly wiped out. The 2 of them were the first gods on the 8th level who dared to fight with such fanfare. This also caused more wills of shock to arrive. What happened? In addition, this great battle had attracted the attention of several higher gods. When they saw the giant ghost, they were all shocked. They couldn't understand where this higher god had come from, and how he was so strong. Night god. These people are blocking us and not letting us enter the temple. Seeing that all the higher gods had arrived, someone immediately said, "Nonsense. The higher god called Night God shouted angrily and looked into the distance. He saw that countless wills of shock had arrived and surrounded them. Of course, these wills of shock had consciousness, so they didn't attack. Instead, they watched the gods fight among themselves. This higher god, why are you blocking us? Don't you know that the purpose of our trip is to obtain the stone tablet that the world's consciousness is residing in? Beside Night God, an old man said coldly. He was one of the higher gods and came from the chaotic realm. Therefore, he knew that the giant ghost and the others weren't weak. However, Lin Ling, who had killed King Song, wasn't here now. Where's your leader, Lin Ling? The old man asked again. Lin Ling, they're Lin Ling's men? Someone among the crowd immediately shouted angrily. Upon closer inspection, it was Night Bumo. Night Bumo had almost lost his life when he was surrounded by wills of shock. He naturally hated Lin Ling to the core. However, he didn't expect that these people were Lin Ling's men. Of course, you guys came late, and we were already in the void of the 9 prefectures, so we are very sure that they are all Lin Ling's people. The old man said suspiciously. Good, it's Lin Ling's people who are the best. In my opinion, they must be plotting something to stop the temple. We should kill them all. Yi Bumo said coldly. I don't think that's a good idea. After all, they are gods on our side. If we kill them, wouldn't that be letting the will of shock off? The old man frowned. In truth, he didn't care about the lives of the giant ghost and the others. The main thing was that there were more and more shocking wills. With one more battle force, it would be safer to leave this place. Senior, this devil-like fellow has already entered the temple. He probably already knows the whereabouts of the host body of the world's will. Now that he's stopping us, he wants to take the reward for himself. Suddenly, a voice came from the crowd, causing Yi Bumo and the others' expressions to change drastically. That's right. Moreover, this temple has a 5-colored light. Ordinary people can't enter at all. Only he can. I'm afraid he has some secrets on him. Someone else said. At this moment, several superior gods stared at the giant ghost. The giant ghost knew too many secrets. Only by capturing him could they obtain these secrets. You guys go and capture those 2. If they resist, just kill them. Everyone, let's work together to capture this evil ghost. The old man from before immediately arranged, and everyone nodded. Then they didn't waste any more time and attacked the giant ghost and the others. I didn't expect that the delay would be so short. Seeing the gods attack, Saint Yi frowned. Now they had only attracted the will of shock. They were still missing the poisonous ants. That's not right. I remember that Lin Ling was very close to us. He should have arrived before the will of shock. Suddenly, treasure god Nanwufingyu seemed to have thought of something. He quickly checked his communication jade talisman and was overjoyed because he saw that Lin Ling was near them. Lin Ling is here. Treasure god Nanwufingyu shouted loudly. Lin Ling is here? The giant ghost and Saint Yi were overjoyed. Lin Ling was the lord above them, and the strongest in Lei Gong's hall. They had always had blind confidence in Lin Ling. Lin Ling is here? The other high gods were similarly stunned, especially the superior gods from the primal chaos realm. They knew that Lin Ling could kill a superior god. Night Bumo laughed wildly, haha. You actually took the initiative to deliver yourself to me. You were all frightened by Lin Ling before. Not long ago, I chased after Lin Ling and he used a seedling to deal with me. But he only has one of that treasure. I am certain of this. Really? The eyes of all the high gods lit up. They were naturally afraid of Lin Ling's seedlings. Without those seedlings, Lin Ling was nothing. Lin Ling, get out here. If you don't come out, I'll kill all of your people. Night Bumo looked around, wanting to find Lin Ling in the distant will of astonishment. With that, he waved his arm and called for the intermediate gods to kill Saint Yi and the others. He didn't believe that Lin Ling wouldn't show up after Saint Yi and the others died. Kill. With so many superior gods supporting them, the other gods had nothing to fear. They all used their methods to kill Saint Yi and treasure god Nanwufengyu. As for the giant ghost, it was currently being blocked by Governor Chong Yuan and another high god. Night Bumo, are you in such a hurry to die? But at this time Lin Ling's voice finally floated over, shocking the world into silence. From the will of astonishment, a dozen figures slowly walked over, forcibly breaking through the will of astonishment's encirclement. The one in the lead was Lin Ling. Who is this person? Even the wills of astonishment were shocked. This was because they hadn't sensed this person's arrival. Moreover, when this person walked past them, they felt a sense of invincibility. Die for me. Lin Ling's footsteps weren't fast. He lightly struck out with his palm. Terrifying divine energy mixed with his physical strength turned into a palm like a storm, ruthlessly slamming into the ground. Rumble. The intermediate gods pouncing on St. Guy, and the others were all sent flying. Some of the slower ones were directly smashed to death, killing gods like slaughtering chickens. After reaching late-stage intermediate god, Lin Ling's strength had increased tenfold. The current him could rely on his own strength to fight superior gods. If he used his trump cards, even early-stage superior gods would be like clay chickens. Whether it was the Tao Pagoda or the primal chaos realm, Lin Ling had the strength to stir up a storm. The other gods were shocked. Chapter 4771. Lin Ling. At this moment, all the gods looked up at Lin Ling. All the gods from the primal chaos realm knew who Lin Ling was. However, this was the first time the gods from the Tao Tower had seen Lin Ling. They never expected Lin Ling to be so strong. A late-stage mid-god killed all the gods of the same realm. Someone growled. This can't be real. The gods from the Tao Tower couldn't believe it, and hesitation appeared in their hearts. Looking at the strongest higher gods, they looked at each other with shock in their eyes. This was especially true for the gods from the Tao Tower like Governor Chang'an. The shock in their hearts was even stronger. Go test him. He should have used his ultimate divine ability before. After all, a late-stage mid-god can't be so powerful. Night God suddenly said to some gods. Okay. Many gods nodded. They also didn't believe that Lin Ling was so strong. Friends, let's do it. They looked at the mid-gods, but the gods from the chaos realm remained silent. In fact, they didn't believe it either, but they were very afraid of Lin Ling. Trash. Seeing these gods hesitate, the others scolded with disdain. They had more people, so why should they fear Lin Ling? Lin Ling, come. Let's see what you've got. A god floated out, and the deafening cry of a phoenix resounded. A black phoenix appeared in the sky and kept churning, bringing with it a sky full of black flames that illuminated the world. An 8th-grade divine fetus. Come. Lin Ling first looked at Pure Maiden Bai Shui and the others and told them to go to St. Guy and the others. Then he stepped forward. At this moment, his blue robe quietly changed and turned gray. This gray color not only turned his robe gray, but also his skin. It was like the ashes of nirvana. This was the 3rd stage of innate talent fusion. Rumble. Lin Ling punched out, and the sound was like the destruction of the world, tearing the universe apart. What seemed like an ordinary punch suddenly began to expand like a shooting star, like a meteor, like a huge universe crashing down. What a powerful force. In the distance, the will of shock was shocked. It was unbelievable. He was merely a late-stage mid-god. How could he explode with such power? Pung pung pung. When this fist smashed down, heaven and earth changed color, suppressing the group of deities. The eyes of those late-stage gods, who had been insufferably arrogant before, were now all trembling. Too strong. They sensed a power of divinity no weaker than 100 million. With a bang, all of his techniques were like paper, and they were forcefully smashed apart by a single punch. Because this was Shuang Baqian. 80 million points of divine power. 80 million points of physical strength. When Lin Ling was a mid-stage mid-god, he had an advantage of double 5,000. Now that he was a late-stage mid-god, he had an advantage of double 8,000. His strength had indeed increased by several folds. Which late-stage mid-god had improved as much as him? This punch could be said to be unparalleled in the world. After that punch, Lin Ling looked to the other side and threw out another punch. Rumble. Shuangbaqian suppressed them and killed countless gods. Even many wills of shock were implicated. Too strong. It was not a secret technique at all, but a very ordinary punch. Silence. The area around the temple was completely silent. Countless people looked at the power of Lin Ling's punch and were speechless for a long time. Was this still a late-stage mid-god? His strength could be said to be a superior deity. At this moment, even the gods from the Tao Tower did not dare to be arrogant. They also deeply remembered the name Lin Ling. I'll do it. Yi Bumo's expression was solemn. He sensed that Lin Ling was much stronger than before, so he could only take action himself. He slowly floated out. When the crowd saw Yi Bumo fly out, they all became excited. Yi Bumo was a god from the first floor of the Tao Tower. His strength was obvious to all, and this Lin Ling was the strongest late-stage mid-god they had ever seen. They did not know who would be more powerful in the clash between these two great gods. Over 100 million points of divine power. Powerful indeed. Yi Bumo looked at Lin Ling and said indifferently. Lin Ling also looked at Yi Bumo, but did not say anything. He naturally knew how strong Yi Bumo was. Back then, he had been besieged by countless shocking wills twice, but he had still been able to escape. Moreover, the seedling that Guangchengzi had left for him did not have much effect on Yi Bumo. This was something that King Songdi could not do. However, this was also the first time that Lin Ling relied on his own strength to fight against a superior deity. Unlike the last time when he killed King Songdi, when he relied on external objects. Therefore, Lin Ling had a feeling that this battle would definitely be very exciting. 100 million points of divine power. This is only the most ordinary standard for a superior deity. Yi Bumo said again. A surge of dark demonic energy burst out from his body, and the entire 8th floor seemed to be dyed black by ink. Apart from the temple, everything else had disappeared. It was devouring. All the gods in the darkness felt incomparably small at this moment, as if their strength had been reduced by half. Looking at Yi Bumo again, he had become incomparably huge. Although it's the most ordinary standard, it still means that I have the power of a superior deity. Lin Ling finally spoke. His 7 dantians appeared on his body, forming a colorful world. This colorful world was like a bright lamp in a storm when compared to the dark world. The two universes collided and rose continuously. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment, as if it had stopped moving. Lord Lin Ling. In the endless world of darkness, the giant ghost's eyes continued to flicker. Although he had reached the superior deity realm, he had a deeper understanding of how strong Lin Ling was now. He was very excited and looked forward to this. Beside him, Governor Yuan's expression was cold. He had never expected that in this group, apart from the giant ghost, there would be a young man who was so powerful. Lei Gong Lin Ling, where did this deity come from? In the Jojo Void, although he was very strong, he was still not enough to make us revere him. But now, with just his aura, we feel that we can't underestimate him. Looking at the other superior deities at this moment, their expressions were incomparably solemn. Humph, no matter how strong he is still a medium deity. This is a result that cannot be changed. I reckon that he is now so strong because he has used some kind of god's stairs. Yi Bumo snorted disdainfully. He still did not believe that a medium deity could fight against a superior deity. Moreover, this superior deity was Yi Bumo, a deity who had entered the first level of the Tao Pagoda. Time still seemed to have stopped. However, at this moment the dark world finally moved. Like a tide, it submerged Lin Ling. Its speed was incomparably fast. God stairs, sealing the great universe world. These God stairs were incomparably powerful. They could seal the deity's power of God in the great universe world. This meant that no matter how strong Lin Ling was, his deity's power of God would never be able to break out of the great universe world. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.